Chapter 184. Wei Chou reached out and deftly took out the demon-devouring bow from his waist. He slowly drew the bowstring, and spiritual energy instantly condensed into an arrow of light. Wei Chou pointed it at the lightning umbrella dragon's neck with a serious expression. At this time, the lightning umbrella dragon had finished eating the bloodthorn vine wolf's head. It immediately bit down on its neck and dragged it back. It was also at this time that the lightning umbrella dragon revealed a weak spot on its neck. There, a few scales had been torn off by something, revealing a scar. This was the chance Wei Chou had been waiting for. Whoosh! The arrow burst forth in the cold wind. By the time the lightning umbrella dragon heard the sound of the wind, it was already too late. It howled in pain as the arrow hit its neck. Wei Chou's arrow had just hit the umbrella dragon's wound. Lin Muyu cheered inwardly. The cold wind at night was very cold, and the wind changed direction very frequently. The hill was almost 150 meters away from the lightning umbrella dragon, and Wei Chou's arrow had actually hit its target from such a distance. Wei Chou's arm strength and eyesight were definitely among the best in the entire Royal Guard. This ability alone was enough to earn him a place in the Royal Guard. At this time, the lightning umbrella dragon roared angrily. It put down the vine wolf's corpse and rushed up the hill. It looked like it couldn't restrain its anger. Unfortunately, its movements were a little sluggish, and the poison from the demon-devouring bow was quickly spreading through its neck. Go! Lin Muyu let out a low roar and rushed down the hill with the dragon spirit sword in hand. Her martial soul shone brightly, and the gourd walls were successfully activated. After the gourd walls blocked the umbrella dragon's attack with a clang, the dragon spirit sword quickly swept across and directly chopped the scales on the umbrella dragon's neck. Crack! A holy grade weapon was different from a mysterious grade weapon. The sword directly cut through the scales on the umbrella dragon's neck, cutting in by almost 5 centimeters. Blood instantly flowed out. Roar! The umbrella dragon roared and suddenly raised its head. Suddenly, bolts of purple lightning condensed in the surroundings, forcing Xiahou Sang and the others to retreat. Their white battle robes were almost charred black. Only Lin Muyu alone could withstand the lightning attack. Her battle boots stepped on the ground, and she endured the numbing feeling of the lightning all over her body. The dragon spirit sword slashed at the lightning umbrella dragon's head for the second time. Crack! The pseudo-dragon scales were shattered. How could it withstand such a fierce attack? Its head was already bleeding. It roared and raised its sharp claws, landing directly on Lin Muyu's waist. The moment the dragon scale wall shattered, Lin Muyu felt a dull pain in her waist. A large piece of the Holy Palace armor had been torn apart, but her body did not suffer much damage. She did not expect the Thunder Umbrella Dragon to be able to counterattack after suffering such a heavy injury. Stealing her heart, Lin Muyu's wrist was filled with demonic energy as she directly injected the second element's profound energy into the longsword. With a low roar, she pressed the dragon spirit sword against the umbrella dragon's head and pushed it straight in. Crack! The sharp blade penetrated the spirit beast's head. Demonic energy danced wildly. The Thunder Umbrella Dragon could not withstand it anymore. It cried out in pain and fell to the ground, its body twitching. Lightning continued to flash around it. Xiahou Sang, Wei Chou, and the others did not have the courage to step forward. Phew! Lin Muyu heaved a sigh of relief. Holding the long sword, she smiled and said, "Luckily, Wei Chou's arrow injured the umbrella dragon first. Otherwise, we would not have been able to kill it so easily." Wei Chou looked at the snowy ground that had been scorched by the lightning and said, "My lord, your green gourd's defense is stronger. That's why we were able to defeat it. Otherwise, I'm afraid we would have all been burned to ashes by the lightning." Xiahou Sang nodded in agreement. Lin Muyu did not listen to the praise. He dug out the Thunder Umbrella Dragon's Spirit Stone. A 6,500-year-old light spirit stone was exactly what he needed. "My lord, we can return to Lanyan City now." Wei Chou smiled smugly and said, "I didn't think it would be so smooth. Zetian Palace's supervisor Che Qiong made things difficult for us. He probably didn't think that we would be able to complete his almost impossible mission so quickly, right?" Lin Muyu shook her head and said, We can't leave yet. Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang were both stunned. Because there must be another Thunder Umbrella Dragon. Lin Muyu said with certainty, just now, this Thunder Umbrella Dragon could have eaten this rattan wolf here, but it dragged this Thunder Umbrella Dragon back. This means that it needed to feed the other Umbrella Dragon. Also, this Umbrella Dragon's neck is injured. It's obvious that an even stronger spirit beast fought it. This means that the other Umbrella Dragon is already heavily injured. Otherwise, it would have come out to look for food. Since this is the case, we need to continue searching here. Since we're already here, let's maximize the benefits. Wei Chou was dumbfounded. It's just as Commander Qin Lei said. The commander is a genius who is skilled in both the pen and the sword. Xiahou Sang and I would never have thought of such a deduction. Xiahou Sang chuckled and used a dagger to take out the spirit stone from the rattan wolf skull in the Thunder Umbrella Dragon's stomach. He smiled and said, I only know that spirit stones can be sold for money. That's enough, Lin Muyu nodded and said, let's go and find the Umbrella Dragon's nest. It shouldn't be far. We just need to follow its footprints. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. The moonlight fell on the snowy ground, creating a dazzling white. Lin Muyu and the rest followed the Umbrella Dragon's footprints. After about half an hour, they finally found that the footprints extended all the way to a cave under a mountain. They could smell an abnormal stench from afar. There were even some bones piled up outside the cave. Some of them belonged to humans, but the bones were black and had moss on them. They must have been there for a long time. Wei Chou frowned and said, maybe the Umbrella Dragon in this cave is more powerful? Not necessarily. Lin Muyu said lightly, if the Umbrella Dragon in the cave is more powerful, it should have come out to look for food. Milord, let me go first. Xiahou Sang said with cupped fists. He was probably worried that something would happen to Lin Muyu, so he let his subordinate go first. However, Lin Muyu shook her head and did not say anything. Instead, she walked in with her sword. The stench became even stronger. As they went down the cave, the snow melted and formed a small canal that flowed into the cave. As a result, Lin Muyu's steps were very slippery. She could faintly hear a low growl when she was about 10 meters into the cave. Lin Muyu raised her dragon spirit sword. Immediately, the Saint-grade sword burst into flames and illuminated everything around it. At the end of the cave, there was some dry grass and tree branches. An even larger Umbrella Dragon was entrenched inside. Its neck was a mess of blood and flesh. It was indeed injured, to the extent that it did not even have the strength to move. All it could do was open its eyes and growl at Lin Muyu. Wei Chou was shocked the moment he stepped into the cave. Milord, this is a female dragon. The mother of the Umbrella Dragon from before should be like this. Also, this is a 10,000-year-old Umbrella Dragon that failed its tribulation. Lin Muyu also saw that there were a total of 9 distinct golden lines on the female dragon's head. As for the 10th, it was a little dim and scattered. It was as if the process of condensing was suddenly interrupted. Needless to say, this female dragon must have been attacked in the process of transforming into a true dragon. That was why she ended up in such a miserable state. She's injured. Her dragon essence is leaking. Xiahou Sang suddenly pulled out his steel sword and said, Milord, let's finish off this 10,000-year-old Thunder Umbrella Dragon immediately. Since we've already killed its son, let's go all the way. Lin Muyu knew that there was no need to be soft-hearted at this time. She nodded and said, let's give her a clean death. Don't worry, milord. Xiahou Sang suddenly leaped forward and stepped on the female dragon's head. He raised his sword with both hands and stabbed the wound on the female dragon's neck. Pfft. Blood splattered everywhere. The 10,000-year-old Umbrella Dragon raised its head and howled in pain. However, it could not fight back at all. Xiahou Sang turned the hilt of his sword and cut off the female dragon's neck. In the blink of an eye, the Umbrella Dragon's head drooped. It was dead. A wild beast spirit flashing with lightning appeared in the air. It's a 10,000-year-old wild beast spirit. Wei Chou smiled and said, Commander, aren't you already close to the peak of the first heaven of the heavenly realm? Why don't you try to refine this Umbrella Dragon's wild beast spirit? A fresh 10,000-year-old spirit beast's wild beast spirit is too precious. It's not a treasure that you can come across just because you want to. Lin Muyu nodded. After so many days of cultivation, he could indeed feel the fighting aura in his body filling up day by day. He was almost at the point of saturation. Almost every day, he had a premonition that he was about to break through his limits. He just hadn't had the opportunity to do so. This was a good opportunity. The umbrella dragon's element was light, but it also had the power of thunder and lightning. Lin Muyu cultivated in a very mixed set of laws, so he didn't care what kind of wild beast spirit it was. Xiahou Sang swung his saber at the umbrella dragon's head in an attempt to extract the spirit stones, but he couldn't cut through it. He shook his head helplessly and said, "My saber is only of fine quality. My lord, why don't you use your sword to extract the spirit stones?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. He swung his sword and immediately broke the umbrella dragon's head. He took out a fresh 10,000-year-old light spirit stone and put it in his cosmos sack. Then he propped the dragon spirit sword on the ground and began to release his martial soul to refine the wild beast spirit. At the same time, he ordered, "The few of you guard me outside the cave. Be careful, there may be other spirit beasts here." "Yes, my lord, don't worry and cultivate." The six-tiered green gourd emitted a hissing sound as it greedily absorbed and refined the wild beast spirit. Lin Muyu felt an extremely empty feeling in his chi, as if no amount of spiritual power was enough to fill it. This was a sign that he was about to break through. He was secretly delighted and quickly released the refining cauldron to assist in the refinement. This way, he could finish it faster. After all, this place was simply too dangerous. Chapter 185. There were two sources of power for a cultivator. One was the EC, which provided a steady stream of spiritual energy for the cultivator. There was an ancient saying that the 3 spiritual souls and 7 physical forms originated from the EC. This was because the heaven soul, earth soul, and life soul dominated the human soul, while the Tianchong, spiritual wisdom, qi, strength, core, essence, and heroism formed the human soul. The cultivation of the spirit pulse technique started with the 3 spiritual souls and 7 physical forms, strengthening and refining them one by one. This made Lin Muyu's soul far stronger than cultivators of the same level, and her spiritual sense was naturally much more sensitive. The other source of power was the qi. The human qi came from the earth, the starry sky, the ocean, and the spirits. These powers gathered in the Dantian and formed a qi. The cultivators of the Shattered Cauldron realm had a stronger desire to strengthen the qi than the EC. Zhang Wei, Wei Chou, and Xiang Yu could be found everywhere because the qi was the most direct source of power. At this moment, Lin Muyu felt that her qi was completely empty, as if all her fighting energy had been absorbed by the gourd martial soul. The indigo gourd surrounded her body and rotated slowly. Not only did it crazily absorb the beast spirit of the umbrella dragon, but it also seemed to absorb Lin Muyu's fighting energy. "What's wrong with this gourd?" Lin Muyu furrowed her brows, feeling that something was amiss. After an unknown amount of time, when the beast spirit of the lightning umbrella dragon was almost completely refined, a ray of light suddenly shone through the rocks and fell on the gourd. At the same time, the indigo gourd trembled slightly and wisps of golden light seeped out of the gourd like golden threads. In the blink of an eye, the green gourd martial soul had completely turned pale gold. Roar! In the treasure refining cauldron, the last wisp of the lightning umbrella dragon's beast spirit was still roaring and raging, trying to break out of the treasure refining cauldron. However, no matter how hard it tried, it could not succeed. The treasure refining cauldron had completely become a sealed space. When Lin Muyu gathered endless heavenly fire and continued to refine and burn it for 5 minutes, the wisp of beast spirit finally turned into rays of golden light and slowly seeped into the gourd. Buzz! The gourd let out a sharp whistling sound and trembled slightly. The outer walls of the gourd started to peel off, revealing the new gourd inside. It had become a completely golden gourd. At the same time, Lin Muyu was overjoyed. The gourd had leveled up, which meant that he had broken through the first level of the heaven realm. Finally, after being in the first echelon of Heaven Realm for a long time, he completed his breakthrough and finally caught up to Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Chu Huayin, and the others. Lulu chuckled and said, "Congratulations on your breakthrough, big brother." "Thank you, Lulu." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. At the same time, she felt that the golden gourd was returning a powerful and boundless fighting aura to her. This was far more vast and pure than the fighting aura that she had absorbed before. At the same time, a milky white fighting aura slowly flowed on the surface of her body, condensing into a rugged armor-like defensive layer on the surface of her skin. Battle Chi armor. Finally, he also had the ability to transform fighting aura into armor. With the defense of the martial soul's gourd, Lin Muyu could be said to be a moving steel fortress. Unless one was absolutely above him, they would not be able to penetrate his defense. Lulu chuckled and said, "Big brother, the Thunder Umbrella Dragon skill has also been refined. It's an offensive skill. Let's call it First Light of Dawn. This kind of power can be condensed in your attack, and it can also be released instantly to produce a dazzling light that pierces your opponent's eyes. It depends on how you use it." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. The 7 energy planes of the Golden Gourd contain the power of First Light of Dawn. He opened his palm and exerted force lightly. Buzz, buzz, fighting aura flowed, and under the catalysis of the martial soul, it condensed into a golden light of dawn that lingered between her 5 fingers. It even flowed along her 5 fingers into the Dragon Soul Sword. Immediately, the Dragon Soul Sword let out a sword cry, as if it was extremely happy because of this tyrannical light attribute power. Perhaps, the sword that Lin Muyu slashed out now would definitely be different from before. At this moment, Xiahou Sang walked in from outside the cave. At one glance, he saw that Lin Muyu's green gourd had turned into a golden gourd, and the surface of the gourd was rapidly peeling off. Immediately, Xiahou Sang happily cupped his fists and congratulated him. "Congratulations, sir. Your gourd has been upgraded. It is no longer a level 10 green gourd." Lin Muyu was stunned. "What do you mean? I only know that the green gourd has been upgraded to the 7th level, but I don't know what other upgrades there are." Xiahou Sang explained, "Sir, you may not know this, but martial souls are not the same. Some people's martial souls are born with very low grades, but after some fortuitous encounters or arduous cultivation, their level 8 martial soul can also be upgraded to level 7. I believe that Sir's green gourd has now turned golden, so it should no longer be level 10. Perhaps when Sir returns to Lanyan City, you can let Great Deacon Lei Hong take a look at it. He will be able to determine the grade of your martial soul at a glance." "Hey, that's great." The level 10 martial soul had always been Lin Muyu's sore spot. After all, as an all-powerful figure, it was not right for her to have the lowest grade of martial soul. Now that Xiahou Sang had said this, it seemed that her counterattack was a foregone conclusion. Xiahou Sang said again, "Sir, it's almost dawn. Let's go back. If we continue to delay, I'm afraid Sir will not be able to make it to the Sword Duel Conference." "It's already dawn." Lin Muyu was a little confused. She did not expect that she had refined it for so long. It must have taken a lot of time to upgrade the martial soul gourd. She nodded and said, "Yes, let's go back." The moment they stepped out of the cave, Wei Chou and the other 2 were all trembling outside. They had not slept for a night, and their complexions were not very good. However, there was nothing they could do. This was fate. The people of the Eagle Nest camp were destined to have a much harder time than the Dragon Guards and the Tiger Guards. Wei Chou immediately saw that the characteristics of Lin Muyu's strength were completely different. He immediately smiled and said, "Congratulations on your breakthrough, sir." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "Thank you." The other Imperial Guard called Han Xiao had a look of shock on his face and said, "Commander has also stepped into the 2nd heaven of the Heaven Realm?" "Yes, let's go. Let's return to the Eagle Nest camp as soon as possible." "Yes." Everyone left the cave together. The warhorses were tied up not far away. After feeding them some fodder, they urged them on their way back. Fortunately, these warhorses were good horses, or they would not have been able to withstand such torment. However, after this trip, these 5 warhorses would probably lose a few kilograms. This was the dream of many girls. Lin Muyu sat on her horse, resting with her eyes closed. The warhorse followed Wei Chao's horse forward. However, Lin Muyu always felt a little uneasy in her heart, as if something was spying on them. However, when the spirit meridian arc spread out, there was no other powerful force in a radius of several li apart from them. This uneasy feeling was very puzzling. Slowly raising her hand, she unsheathed the long sword on her back and hung it on her waist so that she could draw it at any time. Lin Muyu's eyes were cold as she said, "Everyone be careful. It's not safe here." Everyone nodded. Xiahou Sang raised his warblade and said, "Don't worry, sir. We will step onto the main road in 10 minutes. At that time, the warhorses will gallop, and ordinary spirit beasts will not be able to catch up to us. Furthermore, Sir has already stepped into the second heaven of the heaven realm, becoming a heavenly king powerhouse. Ordinary spirit beasts will avoid us." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu frowned and said, "We still need to be careful." "Yes, I know." Wei Chou also drew his longbow from his back, hanging it at his waist. At the same time, he placed his other hand beside his quiver, ready to strike at any time. Lin Muyu closed his eyes, and the spirit meridian arc spread out once more, searching carefully. At the same time, he pricked up his ears, listening carefully to all the sounds around him. The sound of horse hooves in the snow, the clanking of armor, and the sound of cloaks fluttering in the cold wind. Other than that, there seemed to be no other sound. However, at that moment, Lin Muyu suddenly furrowed his brow in alarm. He could clearly hear something strange amidst the sounds. It was a rustling sound, like the sound of a beast's claws landing on the snow. However, when he opened his eyes and looked around, he could not see a single beast. What is going on? Lin Muyu clenched his teeth, and even began to doubt the spirit meridian arc's spiritual sense. Where did this strange sound come from? Suddenly, his gaze fell to the back, and he saw a beast's palm print appearing on the snow with a rustling sound. However, he could not see the beast's figure. However, Lin Muyu had already confirmed that there was something following his group. His spiritual sense was not wrong, and his ominous premonition was not wrong either. "Be careful behind you." Lin Muyu suddenly turned around, raised his hand to pull out the dragon spirit sword, and rushed in the opposite direction. The person at the back of the group was the royal guard, Han Xiao, who had the strength of a level 54 battle saint. He turned around in astonishment, looked at the snow behind him, and said, "My lord, there's nothing?" "Han Xiao, be careful!" Lin Muyu shouted loudly. Right at this moment, the scene in the air suddenly distorted. Amidst the roar of a wild beast, the figure of a scarlet beast suddenly appeared in the air in front of Han Xiao. Its body was covered in fur, and its sharp claws swept past. Puchi! Han Xiao, who was on the warhorse, suddenly sank. The armor from his neck to his lower abdomen shattered, as if it was slashed by a long knife. His entire body was instantly divided into 2 halves, and his internal organs and blood gushed out of the ground. Even the warhorse's bones were broken by the beast's claws. With a wail, it fell to the ground together with Han Xiao's corpse. "God damn it!" Lin Muyu's voice trembled. His anger and unwillingness made his body tremble uncontrollably. Han Xiao died instantly, and the scene of his death was extremely tragic. What kind of spirit beast was this? Chapter 186. Roar Roar. This crimson-furred spirit beast resembled a lion, but it wasn't one. Its head resembled that of a dragon, and its claws were extremely powerful. The spikes on its claws were close to 10 centimeters long, which was why it was able to dismember Han Xiao with a single strike. Seeing that Lin Muyu was charging toward it, the beast let out an enraged roar and pounced toward her. It leaped into the air and unleashed the same attack, swiping its sharp claws toward Lin Muyu's neck. However, Lin Muyu wasn't Han Xiao. She had a total of 4 layers of defense: black tortoise shell, dragon scale wall, azure rock armor, and battle armor. The beast's claws quickly landed on the black tortoise shell, and it instantly shattered with a resounding thump. However, Lin Muyu didn't miss such a golden opportunity. She raised her sword with both hands and swept it horizontally, the blade of her sword imbued with the power of true dragon essence flame and first light of dawn. Splat! The dragon spirit sword only managed to leave 2 gashes on the beast's front legs. Golden blood continued to drip onto the snow like scorching lava, quickly melting away all the snow within a meter of it. Roar, roar! The beast let loose another enraged roar and stomped its hind legs into the ground, leaping up like lightning again. This time, it actually split its claws into 2 and tore apart the dragon scale wall and azure rock armor. It then opened its mouth and bit down toward Lin Muyu's neck. It was simply too powerful for Lin Muyu to take on, and she was forced to use her falling star steps to roll down the snow. Slap! The beast bit down on the ground, but it didn't even turn around. Instead, it swept its tail through the air like an iron whip, and there was no way Lin Muyu could evade it. She let out a muffled groan as the whip struck her back, and she immediately felt a scorching pain. This beast could almost break through the defenses of her battle armor with just its tail. Thankfully, she was wearing her battle armor. Otherwise, that attack would have definitely fractured Lin Muyu's spine, and she would have been in deep trouble. Save the Lord, hurry up! Xiahou Sang charged over with his steel saber. Lin Muyu rolled away, but she raised her hand and used her calabash vines to entangle the beast. Huge clumps of calabash vines broke through the ground and bound the beast tightly. At the same time, she shouted, "Xiahou Sang, retreat! No one is allowed to go forward. Wei Chou, shoot its eyes." Wei Chou did not dare to rashly release the arrow. He tightened the bowstring, still waiting for the right opportunity. At this time, Lin Muyu also hastily and forcibly condensed the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall. However, because it was the second time, their strength was far less than before. The dragon spirit sword suddenly flew out, and with the spiraling, piercing power of the true dragon essence fire, it directly smashed into the mad beast's abdomen. That should also be its weak point, right? Pang! With a loud explosion, the dragon spirit sword did not disappoint. It drilled a hole in the mad beast's abdomen, and golden blood spurted out. However, before the wound could be torn open, the mad beast raised its head and roared angrily. A powerful shockwave appeared, directly repelling the dragon spirit sword. At the same time, it also shattered the calabash vines. Lin Muyu opened her hand and controlled the dragon spirit sword from afar. At the same time, her left hand reached out and took out the demonic noise saber. Dou Qi swirled around her as she slashed out. Roar! The mad beast did not show any mercy. It directly used its scalp to block the demonic noise saber. With a dang sound, the demonic noise saber was blasted away. However, only some skin on the top of its head was sliced open. Its head was really hard. Seeing the mad beast charging at her, Lin Muyu did not retreat. She suddenly pulled back her right hand, her face full of anger. The surrounding space instantly distorted, and numerous celestial constellations appeared on the snowy ground. In response to Lin Muyu's summon, they all attached themselves to the power of her fist. She directly punched out at the mad beast. For Luminary's demon cry. Boom! A shockwave of Dou Qi instantly exploded, causing the snow within a radius of several tens of meters to fly into the air. Lin Muyu was actually forced to retreat, and her entire right arm was numb. However, this mad beast was actually only injured after receiving the power of the fourth luminaries. It slightly bent its body, and once again soared into the sky. It opened its bloody mouth and bit towards Lin Muyu's neck. She could not let her neck be bitten, or she would die without a doubt. After using the fourth luminaries, Lin Muyu's body was already suffering from the backlash of the seven luminaries' profound energy. How could she dodge? She could only turn her body in an instant, and the mad beast's bite landed on her shoulder. With a poochie sound, those sharp teeth bit through her shoulder armor, and fresh blood spurted out. The long teeth slowly pierced into Lin Muyu's flesh, and an intense pain quickly spread throughout her body and soul. Enduring the intense pain, Lin Muyu reached out and grabbed the handle of the dragon spirit sword. From the side, she pressed the dragon spirit sword against the mad beast's abdomen, and with a "pu" sound, she pushed it in. Moreover, she continued to exert force, and the dragon spirit sword quickly sank into the spirit beast's body, all the way to the hilt. It was also at this moment, with the pung sound of an arrow leaving the bowstring, the mad beast on Lin Muyu's shoulder suddenly trembled and immediately let go of Lin Muyu's shoulder. It howled miserably, and an invisible poisonous arrow entered its eyes. It was none other than Wei Chou who had shot this arrow. Roar, roar. The mad beast retreated continuously, broke free from the dragon spirit sword, and quickly ran backwards. When Wei Chou wanted to shoot it again, he discovered that the mad beast had leaped up, and its body glowed with a golden light as it disappeared into the air, leaving only a trail of blood on the snowy ground. Lin Muyu couldn't help but let out a miserable howl. Her face was ashen as she fell to the snowy ground, and a sharp pain came from her shoulder. Fortunately, the mad beast's mouth wasn't bigger, or else its teeth might have touched her heart. At that time, even a deity wouldn't be able to save her. "Milord." Xiahou Sang hurriedly went forward to support Lin Muyu, but her eyes were looking around, and she shouted, "Be on guard." The other two Imperial Guards' faces were already filled with shock. They had never seen a fight like this before. The most brutal fight between humans and wild beasts couldn't be more brutal than this, right? Lin Muyu trembled as she took out 2 bottles of healing medicine and quickly poured them on her wounds. At the same time, she took off her shoulder armor and said with a pale face, "What the hell is this thing? I've never seen it before." In fact, Lin Muyu had been conquering for so many years, but she had never seen this kind of monster on any map. On the other hand, Wei Chou frowned and said, "It's the Heaven Beast, the legendary hunter." Heaven Beast? Xiahou Sang was stunned. Wei Chou nodded. "That's right, I've seen the 10,000 Beasts Atlas. The Heaven Beast is probably one of the species at the top of the food chain, and its status is comparable to that of a real dragon. Its greatest ability is to use the power of light to create a blinding effect, which is what we saw just now. It can turn invisible and hide its breath to launch a sneak attack. Since ancient times, countless peerless masters have died under the sneak attack of the Heaven Beast in the dragon-seeking forest, and many of them were sanctuary powerhouses. Therefore, the Heaven Beast has another name, which is Hunter. "Milord, we've been targeted by the Heaven Beast this time, and the odds are against us." Lin Muyu was stunned, and said, "Didn't it leave with injuries just now?" There was a trace of fear in Wei Chou's eyes as he said, "I'm afraid that's not the case. The Heaven Beast is a natural revenant. As long as it targets its enemy, it will definitely not stop until they die. Even if it's injured, it will definitely come back again. We should leave this place quickly, the further the better. Maybe because of its injuries, it can spare our lives." Lin Muyu also felt that she couldn't fight anymore, so she nodded and said, "Then Han Shao's corpse? Don't worry about it anymore." Wei Chou said lightly, Han Shao was an Imperial Guard, and he was ready to sacrifice himself for Zhe Tian Palace at any time. This time, he died in the line of duty, and his soul belongs to his honor. We can't lose our lives just to collect his corpse. That would be an unwise move. Moreover, you are the Emperor's godson, and all the more you can't die in a place like this. Although it's very difficult for us, all right, stop talking. Let's go quickly." Lin Muyu mounted her horse with difficulty and looked around with an ashen face. The Heaven Beast was a natural hunter, and her spirit pulse technique had already lost its effect under the Heaven Beast's concealment ability. Just as Wei Chou said, staying here and entangling with the Heaven Beast was no different from courting death. She abruptly whipped the warhorse, and it quickly galloped away in the snow. Everyone's mood was extremely heavy. They originally thought they had easily completed their mission, but they didn't expect to be targeted by an evil beast like the Heaven Beast right before they left. It was hard to say whether they would live or die. While running wildly, Wei Chou said, "I saw clearly just now that this Heaven Beast has a lifespan of 13,400 years. It can be said to be a divine beast. We're already very lucky to be able to injure it, so we should go as far as we can. More than 10,000 years?" Xiahou Sang was speechless. Wei Chou faintly smiled. The Heaven Beast's predecessor was a moonoccultation beast, a legendary spirit beast that can absorb moonlight. Therefore, wherever there is a monocultation beast, there is no moonlight. When a monocultation beast cultivates for more than 10,000 years, it will undergo a tribulation transformation and evolve into a heaven beast. According to the Myriad Beast Atlas, heaven beasts are rarely seen in the world. I really don't know if we're lucky or just unlucky for 8 lifetimes. Lin Muyu's mood was heavy, and her expression was solemn. She kept circulating the dragon-forging bone remnant scroll to speed up the healing of her injuries. At this time, she had another ominous premonition. He felt that something was staring at them. That's right, he had the same feeling before. It seemed that the power provided by the spirit pulse technique had become an instinct. He could sense that the heaven beast was staring at them, but he didn't know where it was. Perhaps Lin Muyu also had an unshirkable responsibility for Han Xiao's death. At this moment, Lin Muyu felt true fear. He could even feel the heaven beast's contempt and determination toward him. It wanted to devour his soul and flesh. This was the feeling the heaven beast gave him. A few minutes later, Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes, and her entire body suddenly brimmed with a murderous aura. If they didn't kill the heaven beast, how could they face Han Xiao's spirit in heaven? Chapter 187. Late at night, they decided to take a break and set up camp under a cliff. Wei Chou lit 3 bonfires and protected Lin Muyu at the spot closest to the cliff. This way, they could guard against the heaven beast's sneak attack. After a day of running, they were at least several hundred kilometers away from the forest of malicious ghosts. However, that ominous feeling still lingered in Lin Muyu's heart. He looked at the darkness in the distance with an ugly expression and lowered his voice. Wei Chou, how many arrows do you have left? 3. Sir, what's wrong? Let's set a trap. Wei Chou was astonished. We've already run for hundreds of kilometers. Could it be that the Heaven Vault beast will launch a sneak attack? It will. Trust me. Wei Chou signaled with his eyes, and Xiahou Sang and the other 2 royal guards immediately took out their long swords and spears and dug a pit that was about 10 meters wide and 5 meters deep on the right side of the front. Then, they laid down dead wood and scattered snow as a trap. Meanwhile, Wei Chou pulled back the 3 spare longbows and mounted the arrows on them. After setting up the string, he aimed at the deep pit and was ready to shoot. Of course, all of this was done openly. Can this really fool the heaven beast? Wei Chou squatted beside Lin Muyu and said, the heaven beast isn't an ordinary beast. It has already gained intelligence and isn't just an ordinary level of intelligence. If it's really watching us, then what we've done would be in vain. No, it'll work. Lin Muyu looked up. The cliff above them was like an eagle's beak. It was enormous and covered in snow. Who knew which direction the heaven beast would come from, so they could only take a gamble. Lin Muyu pressed her palm on the ground. The calabash vines silently entered the ground and frantically stirred and squeezed, separating the soil under the ground. Soon, Lin Muyu quietly completed a trap. It wasn't wide, no more than 5 meters, but 10 meters deep. Don't let anyone walk around there. Tie the horses and don't let them move. Lin Muyu pointed at the snow not far away. Wei Chou seemed to realize something and nodded. Okay. Although Xiahou Sang and the other 2 royal guards were very nervous, they maintained a trace of calmness. If it were a weaker person, they would have already broken down. A 13,400-year-old spiritual beast was staring at them, ready to launch a fatal attack at any time. Furthermore, this spiritual beast could even turn invisible. This was a pressure that no one could withstand. Go to sleep. I'll wake you up when it comes, Lin Muyu said calmly. You can really sleep? Wei Chou was stunned. Lin Muyu curled her lips and lowered her voice. Don't be so honest. Can't you pretend to be asleep? If we don't sleep, this injured heaven beast definitely won't attack us. Got it. Heh. Everyone leaned against the rock wall and took a short nap. The flickering flames reflected on their cheeks, giving them a peaceful feeling. Although Lin Muyu closed his eyes, he fully activated his spiritual perception. He could almost confirm that the heaven beast was staring at them not far away. The heaven beast could turn invisible and hide its aura, and the spiritual pulse technique couldn't detect it. However, thanks to the heavy snow, The ground was covered with snow. As long as the heaven beast came, the sound of its paws stepping on the snow wouldn't escape Lin Muyu's ears, no matter how low its voice was. As the cold wind whistled, Lin Muyu had to distinguish the heaven beast's footsteps from the sound of the wind. He frowned and held the dragon spirit sword in his arm. Although he looked like he was sleeping, his spirit was completely tense. After an unknown amount of time, the heaven beast seemed to be an experienced hunter. It fought with Lin Muyu and the others in a battle of wits and courage, patiently waiting for the best opportunity. Just when one of the royal guards started snoring, the heaven beast finally moved. Rustle, rustle, Lin Muyu clearly heard the sound of the heaven beast stepping on the snow. He needed to determine how far the heaven beast was and when it would attack. This was especially important. Don't move. Be careful. It's coming, Lin Muyu said in a voice as soft as a mosquito. Wei Chou and the others were all solemn, but they still maintained their sleeping posture. Rustle, rustle. The footsteps got closer and closer. When the heaven beast was less than 10 meters away, Lin Muyu suddenly opened his eyes and said, "It's coming. Everyone be on guard." Everyone drew their swords and sabers. Just at this moment, a beast's roar reverberated in the air. The heaven beast revealed itself the moment it launched its attack. Wei Chou hastily drew his longbow, and an arrow left the bowstring with a whoosh. However, the heaven beast was originally attacking from the right. Just as it was about to step into the trap prepared by Wei Chou and the others, it suddenly stopped and dodged Wei Chou's arrow. Instead, it attacked from the left. Moreover, the corner of the heaven beast's mouth curled up slightly as if it was laughing at Wei Chou and Lin Muyu's stupidity. Roar! The heaven beast roared and pounced over, covering at least 5 meters with this leap. Lin Muyu flipped over and raised her right arm. Demonic energy danced around her fist, and the second glory, which had the strongest single-target killing ability, was instantly launched. Bang! The heaven beast roared angrily. Although it had thick skin and thick flesh, it blocked the second glory's attack with its spiritual power. However, its body fell from the ground, crushing the trap set by Lin Muyu with a crash, and falling down involuntarily. Lin Muyu leaped up with her sword in hand. Her battle boots stepped on the rock wall as she leaped up for nearly 10 meters. In the instant she spun around, she slashed out with her sword aura. With a kacha sound, the eagle beak-shaped rock above her was cut in half. In an instant, a huge rock weighing at least 10 tons fell from the sky, falling straight into the trap. Roar! The heaven beast opened its sharp claws and was climbing up when it saw a huge rock falling from the sky. Bang! The rock hit its head, and it immediately screamed in pain as it was pressed to the bottom of the trap by the huge rock. This was a trap that was nearly 10 meters deep. It wasn't easy to climb up after being pressed down by the rock. Great plan, madam. Wei Chou suppressed the raging waves in his heart and asked, "Is it dead?" "No, it's not dead." At this moment, the heaven beast was roaring angrily. Lin Muyu's spiritual perception could sense that its strength was only slightly weakened. It wasn't really crushed to death by the rock. If it could be crushed to death so easily, it probably wouldn't deserve to be called a divine beast. Let's go and leave this place while it's night. It still needs some time to struggle up. Yes. Wei Chou raised his demon-devouring bow and shot 7 to 8 arrows at the heaven beast's sharp claws. With an angry expression, he said, "This beast killed Han Xiao. I really want to tear it into pieces. Let's go. There will be opportunities in the future." Yes. The group rode away under the cover of the night, but Lin Muyu's mood didn't relax at all. She knew that the heaven beast wouldn't give up so easily. The heaven beast's mentality seemed to be similar to that of many scum humans. Because of a slight disagreement, it would want to kill someone. It was very rare to see a spirit beast that held a grudge and was so narrow-minded. After galloping for a day and a night, the four quickly arrived at the edge of the dragon-seeking forest. They were only half a day away from Lanyan City. However, the warhorses were so tired that they couldn't run anymore and needed to rest. Even Lin Muyu's warhorse was foaming at the mouth. If it didn't eat and rest, it would definitely die on the spot. This time, they chose a cave as their campsite. The original owner of the cave was a 700-year-old blind bear, which was killed by Wei Chou with a sword. They set up a pot and cooked the bear paw at the entrance of the cave. This time, Lin Muyu finally didn't feel like she was being watched. It seemed that the heaven beast was crushed by the huge rock and couldn't get up anymore. This was a good thing. However, just as she was enjoying the bear paw soup, that feeling came again. Damn it! Lin Muyu cursed angrily and put down the soup in her hand. At the same time, she extended her spirit pulse technique. This time, she could actually lock onto the heaven beast's position. It seemed that the heaven beast was too injured last time and could no longer hide its aura. However, with the heaven beast's strength alone, it could still easily kill Lin Muyu and the others. The heaven beast was hiding in the forest less than 100 meters in front of them. Under her spiritual perception, the heaven beast's aura had become much weaker. This was thanks to the arrows shot by Wei Chou with the demon-devouring bow. The demon-devouring bow refined the soul of a highly toxic spirit beast, so the continuous poison infection had reduced the heaven beast's strength to less than 50%. However, Lin Muyu was already injured, and her strength was also reduced to less than 60%. If they really fought, the heaven beast could easily kill them and leave after having a midnight snack. However, the heaven beast was too cautious. It was still waiting for an opportunity. Perhaps the heaven beast didn't even know that its location had been seen by Lin Muyu. Looking in her universe bag, there were still a few bottles of spirit concentration powder left. She took them out and said to Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the others, "Each of you drink 1 bottle of this medicine. Hurry up." "Well, what is this?" Wei Chou asked in astonishment. "Something that can save your lives. Hurry up." "Okay." The 3 of them completely believed in Lin Muyu's words and immediately drank it. Lin Muyu also drank 1 bottle. Then she took out a bottle of Qingfeng drunk and poured it in front of the cave. The medicine dispersed with the wind, and the heaven beast within 100 meters couldn't avoid it even if it didn't want to. The heaven beast was cautious by nature, but it was at a disadvantage here. The longer it waited, the stronger the effect of the Qingfeng drunk would be. This was also the result that Lin Muyu wanted to see. After a full 4 hours, when Wei Chou and the others were about to fall asleep, the heaven beast finally moved and slowly walked out of the forest. Although it was still invisible, Lin Muyu's spiritual perception had already locked onto it. He immediately opened his eyes vigilantly and said, "Be careful, it's coming again. Madam, what should we do?" Wei Chou's eyes were filled with despair. Lin Muyu smiled. "It's fine this time. You can blind its other eye first, and I'll chop it up." Chapter 188. Swoosh, swoosh, golden gourd vines rose from the ground and quickly bound the invisible heaven beast. The thorns on the gourd vines quickly pierced through the beast's fur, instantly rendering the heaven beast invisible. The poisonous arrow pierced through the air and directly shot into the heaven beast's other eye. Immediately, blood splattered and miserable howls sounded. This time, both of the heaven beast's eyes were blinded. With an angry roar, it fiercely pounced over. It was indeed a ferocious beast. After losing both of its eyes, it still wanted to kill people. Lin Muyu rushed out with her sword and used falling star steps. She suddenly jumped to the star position, and her figure instantly changed. She raised her left fist, which was surrounded by blood-red 7 luminaries' dark force. She suddenly punched the heaven beast's cheek. Bam! This punch was really powerful, and it forced the sky beast to retreat repeatedly. The sky beast's ferocious nature flared up, and it quickly pounced at Lin Muyu again. However, Lin Muyu dodged it, and the sky beast's upper and lower teeth snapped in the air. The strength and speed of this attack were really shocking, but it was clearly inferior to Lin Muyu's falling star steps. Woo! The heaven beast shook its head violently. Only when it launched its attack did it realize that something was wrong with its body. It couldn't use all its strength, and it could only use less than 10% of its spiritual power. As a result, Lin Muyu was able to use 60% of her battle energy, so she naturally had the upper hand. Thanks to Qingfeng Zue, she wouldn't have such an advantage. The heaven beast was scheming, but it didn't expect Lin Muyu to be an expert in using poison. Swish! The dragon spirit sword slashed at the sky beast's neck in a fiery red arc. With just one slash, blood and flesh splattered everywhere. After being poisoned, the sky beast lost its spiritual power, which weakened its defensive energy layer a lot. With just one slash, the dragon spirit sword penetrated nearly 20 centimeters into the sky beast's flesh, revealing the bones. It roared and shook its head. Its tail turned into a sharp light that swept across, but Lin Muyu easily dodged it. To Lin Muyu, the heaven beast was too slow. Quickly changing the angle, Lin Muyu brazenly swung her sword again, this time on the same wound. The sky beast let out a blood-curdling howl as its spine was split in half. Bone fragments splashed everywhere. The sharpness of the dragon spirit sword was evident. Moreover, Lin Muyu had used all of her fighting energy to slash the sky beast, so her strength was naturally extraordinary. Roar! The dying heavens beast roared angrily. It suddenly raised its head and launched a light energy shockwave. Lin Muyu hurriedly condensed the walls of the gourd to block the attack. The golden light kept bouncing off the sky beast's attacks. Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the others behind her also retreated far away. The battle in front of them was still beyond their reach. Rustle. She stepped on the ground with her battle boots, turned her body skillfully, and slashed for the third time with the sword in her hand. Crack. This time, the sound was crisper. Lin Muyu had used all of her strength in this attack. The dragon spirit sword shone brightly and directly cut off the sky beast's head along with its bones. With a plop, the huge beast's head rolled on the snowy ground, but its body was still waving its sharp claws and swinging its tail in the air. This process lasted for nearly a minute before the headless body slowly fell to the ground and died. Oh my, Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the others were dumbfounded. They had seen many powerful spirit beasts, but they had never seen a spirit beast with such vitality. It's done. Lin Muyu sat on the snowy ground and held the sky beast's head with one hand. She sneered and said, "You beast injured the umbrella dragon mother and son and waited there for an opportunity. In the end, you targeted us and followed us from the forest of malicious spirits all the way to Lanyan City. You didn't expect to end up like this, did you?" Wei Chou walked forward and patted Lin Muyu's shoulder. He laughed heartily and said, "Commander, we finally don't have to die under the sharp teeth of the sky beast." It was the joy of escaping from death. Lin Muyu gritted his teeth in pain. Wei Chou's inadvertent slap landed on his wound. I'm sorry, Commander. I got carried away and deserve to die." Wei Chou hurriedly cupped his fists and knelt in front of her. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. "Get up. It's okay. It wasn't easy to kill this sky beast. Everyone worked hard. But when we return to Lanyan City, we must not mention this sky beast and pretend it never happened. Just say that Han Xiao died in the line of duty while fighting the umbrella dragon." "Why is that, madam?" Xiahou Sang said blankly, "The sky beast is the nightmare of all cultivators. Madam, you killed this sky beast with your own strength and ingenious plan. You're the only person in Lanyan City who can do this. Why do you want to hide the truth?" Lin Muyu shook her head with a smile. "It's precisely because very few people can kill a sky beast that we have to keep our mouths shut. If the Divine Marquis Estate and military police camp know that we killed the sky beast, believe it or not, military police camp will definitely send people to investigate us. Maybe they'll even think of stealing the sky beast's spirit stone. It's always good for us to keep a low profile." Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, "Commander is wise. I agree." Xiahou Sang didn't really understand, but he still cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Xiahou Sang, am a boor and don't understand these things. But don't worry, Xiahou Sang will keep my mouth shut." "Okay." Lin Muyu stood up and used the dragon spirit sword to cut open the sky beast's skull. Then, she placed a scalding light spirit stone into her Qiankuan bag. This was a sky beast spirit stone that had a lifespan of 13,400 years. Whether it was its age or quality, it was a rare item. As for how to use it, Lin Muyu already had a plan. She would use this sky beast spirit stone to refine the soul of the demon noise saber. Although the demon noise saber was a hidden weapon created by the famous General Feng Yicheng, it was only sharp. It was still a long way from being a real divine weapon. It could be used to kill the enemy on the battlefield, but if it encountered a real expert, the demon noise saber would probably be useless. This demon noise saber couldn't even cut through the sky beast's skull, which proved its lack of sharpness. Wei Chou used his long sword to cut the sky beast's fur, but he couldn't pierce through it. He couldn't help but be speechless and said, "My lady, the sky beast's fur seems to be a good treasure and can be made into good leather armor. However, my blade isn't sharp enough to skin it. Can I borrow your dragon spirit sword?" Lin Muyu raised her hand, and the dragon spirit sword fell into Wei Chou's hand. She smiled and said, "Be quick. Everyone, have a good night's rest. We'll return at dawn tomorrow. We should be able to reach Lanyan City before noon." Not long after, Wei Chou peeled off the sky beast's fur. Since it was a very rare sky beast, he even broke the bones of the spirit beast, separated the meat from the bones, and put them into a bag. The heart and liver were also put into another bag. As for the skull, he dug out the brain. Xiahou Sang even laughed and said that since the sky beast was so smart, it would definitely become smarter after eating its brain. This made Lin Muyu smile. These people dared to eat anything. If they were born in modern times, they must be Cantonese compatriots or descendants of Bear Grylls. With the death of the sky beast, everyone's sense of crisis was relieved. This place was very close to Lanyan City, so the spirit beasts that appeared were only about 1,000 years old. Even if a group of wolves attacked, Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang were enough to resist. Therefore, Lin Muyu finally had a good night's sleep. When she woke up the next day, she found that it was snowing again. A simple tent was set up above her head. It was a tent that Wei Chou made for Lin Muyu by tying his and Xiahou Sang's Imperial Guard's cloaks together. Although it couldn't block the wind, it could block the snow. Lin Muyu had been too tired these days. Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang understood that, so they took care of this superior who had saved their lives more than once. In the morning, they had a delicious soup made from the sky beast's heart. It tasted pretty good. The sky beast had been at the top of the food chain all its life, but now it had become a piece of meat in someone else's soup pot. It was really miserable. After eating, they drank some wine and warmed up before setting off. They galloped at full speed and arrived at Lanyan City before noon. Lin Muyu had to personally go to Zetian Palace to hand in the order, and Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the others had to follow because Han Shao had died on this mission. Every Imperial Guard was personally appointed by the Emperor, so every one of them was very important. The death of an Imperial Guard in the line of duty was a big deal in itself. Therefore, the military police battalion had to intervene in the investigation of Han Shao's death. Exhausted, he rode his horse into the side hall next to the Zetian Palace. Zetian Palace's supervisor, Che Qiong, was sipping wine with her eyes closed. Outside the door, Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, "Master Che Qiong, the Eagle Nest Camp is here to hand in the order. We have found the 6,000 years' worth of light spirit stones." "What's so fast?" Che Qiong stood up and wiped the grease off his mouth. He smiled and said, "Madam Lin Muyu, please come in." Lin Muyu held a piece of black cloth in his hand, and on top of the cloth lay the spirit stone, which was glistening. He smiled and said, "As for the spirit beast skin, we will prepare it in a while. Just send this over for now." "Okay, Commander, thank you for your hard work." Che Qiong smiled and said to the group of people behind him who were drinking together, "Madam Yu Qiyen, the spirit stone has been found. Soon, you will be able to forge a divine weapon that Her Highness Yin will admire." Among the crowd, a man about 30 years old with an imposing appearance stood up and walked over. He grabbed the spirit stone and weighed it in his hand. He smiled and said, "There is a full 6,500 years of light spirit power stored. With this treasure, I will definitely be able to forge a long sword that will embarrass many blacksmiths in Lanyan City. Her Highness Yin will definitely be satisfied and look at me in a new light." Lin Muyu stood there quietly. Her shoulder was still wrapped in bloody gauze. Wei Chou frowned and said in a low voice, "Madam, this Yu Qiyen did not even look at you. He is extremely rude." Lin Muyu said lightly, "It's okay. Let's go back." At this moment, a eunuch announced from outside, Her Highness Qin Yin has arrived. Lin Muyu could not help but smile. Xiao Yin is really well informed. Wei Chou also smiled and said, yes, after all, you have been away from Lanyan City for 5 days. Chapter 189. Big Brother Yu. Qin Yin had an enchanting smile on her face. Her white cloak fluttered in the wind behind her, and the purple butterfly knot in her hair swayed beautifully. A group of dragon guards followed behind her, and Chu Huayin was among them. It seemed that Chu Huayin, the commander of the Dragon Guard Battalion, was personally on duty in Zetian Palace today. However, when Qin Yin's gaze landed on the wound on Lin Muyu's shoulder, she immediately became nervous. She walked forward and gently touched the bandage. With a concerned gaze, she asked gently, "Are you injured?" "Yes, it's just a minor injury," Lin Muyu smiled and said respectfully, "Xiao Yin, why are you here?" "I heard that you returned to Zetian Palace to hand in your orders, so I came to take a look." Qin Yin's snow-white hand covered the wound. Suddenly, she activated her power and a gentle fighting aura slowly seeped into the wound. In the next moment, she revealed a reproachful expression. "The wound is so deep, and you say it's a minor injury. What exactly hurt you?" Lin Muyu smiled awkwardly. "It's really nothing. I'm a royal guard and a martial artist. It's normal for me to be injured." Qin Yin knew that he didn't want to say it. Her gaze landed on Wei Chou. She asked, "What's your name?" Wei Chou. Wei Chou was extremely nervous. He could finally talk to the heir of the empire. Moreover, she was the #1 beauty of the empire. How could he not be nervous and excited? Qin Yin asked, "Wei Chou, how did my big brother you get injured?" Wei Chou was taken aback, and Lin Muyu hurriedly gestured for him to keep quiet. Wei Chou respectfully said, "Reporting to your highness, Lady Lin Muyu was injured during our battle with the Umbrella Dragon. Not only that, we also lost a member of the royal guard, Han Xiao." "So that's how it is." Qin Yin moved her red lips. Her eyes were filled with heartache as she said, "It's almost the end of the year. Furthermore, the dragon forest has been sealed off by the heavy snow. The Eagle Nest Battalion shouldn't have been sent out to patrol. Who issued this order?" Wei Chou was stunned. "I don't dare to say." At this time, Che Qiong, the supervisor of the Zetian Palace, was also drenched in cold sweat. He hurriedly walked forward, cupped his fists, and knelt on the ground. He said, "Your Highness, this is my order. This old subject has committed a capital offense. Please forgive me, Your Highness." "Supervisor Che Qiong?" Qin Yin raised her eyebrows. "What order did you give to the Eagle Nest camp?" "Before the end of this winter, obtain a light attribute spirit stone that is more than 6,000 years old." "Is this the reason why Lady Lin Muyu was injured?" Qin Yin was slightly annoyed. "Che Qiong, as the supervisor of the Zetian Palace, don't you understand how important the lives of the royal guards are? Father, the Emperor, has told you that the target spirit stone of the royal guards cannot exceed 6,000 years old. Otherwise, it is equivalent to sending them to their deaths." Che Qiong's entire body trembled. He said in a trembling voice, "Your Highness, this old subject knows his mistake. It's just that His Majesty invited the famous blacksmith Yu Yen from the Heaven's Pivot Province to forge a light attribute divine weapon for your Highness. It is also because of this that this old subject issued this order to the Eagle Nest camp. I hope that your Highness can forgive this old subject's capital offense." Qin Yin sniffled. The displeasure on her face lessened a little. She said calmly, "There can't be a next time. At least, you can't let Lin Muyu fall into trouble again. Otherwise, you can forget about being the supervisor of the Zetian Palace." "Yes, thank you, Your Highness." At this time, the extremely handsome Yu Yen walked over. He respectfully cupped his hands and knelt on the ground. "Your Highness, I am Yu Yen. I am the eldest son of the Yuchi family of the Heaven's Pivot Province. This time, I was invited by His Majesty to come all the way to the imperial capital. I am only willing to forge a sword that is at least profound grade rank 4 or above for your Highness. If it can make your Highness smile, I am willing to die 10,000 times. Ever since Qin Yin became an adult at the age of 16, she had always been regarded as the #1 beauty of the empire. The legend of her unparalleled beauty had long been known by the whole world. Therefore, the children of the major provinces naturally could not stop admiring this heir of the empire. The Yuchi family was also considered to be illustrious in the Heaven's Pivot province. They had a wide influence. Yuchi Yen wanted to use this time's forging to get close to Qin Yin. In the face of Yuchi Yan's reverence, Qin Yin maintained the majesty and cultivation of the eldest princess. She gracefully bowed and said, "Then I will have to trouble Lord Yuchi Yen." Yuchi Yen smiled slightly. "Your Highness need not be angry at Lord Che Qiong. After all, he gave this order for your weapon. Moreover, the royal guards are loyal soldiers who are willing to die for the emperor. Even if they die in the line of duty for your Highness' weapon, it would be an honor for them. Your Highness, am I right?" Qin Yin's pair of beautiful eyes flashed with anger. She still maintained a seductive smile. "Lord Yuchi Yan's words are not without reason. I understand. Rest assured, I will not pursue the crime of Supervisor Che Qiong's dereliction of duty." The Yuchi family was considered a large family in the Heaven's Pivot province. They had their own strengths in smelting iron, commerce, and so on. They even directly supplied weapons to the imperial army stationed in the Heaven's Pivot province. They also had very close relationships with many of the imperial army's generals. Qin Yin naturally could not offend the Yuchi family over such a small matter, so her words were still very appropriate. Yuchi Yen respectfully cupped his hands and bowed again. "Your Highness, this lowly one has already smelted the 10,000-year black iron for many days. I only lack a spirit stone. This spirit stone came at the right time. I will smelt this weapon tonight. If your Highness does not mind, why not write the 2 words Qin Yin for this lowly one? This lowly one can then engrave these 2 words on the blade. With your Highness's name engraved on it, this sword will certainly be passed down through the ages." Lin Muyu furrowed her brows and thought to herself, this Yuchi Yan's flattery skills are really not ordinary. His demeanor is also very obedient and humble. If it was any other girl, they would definitely submit very quickly, right? Wei Qiu, on the other hand, sneered and said softly, "What a good flatterer." Lin Muyu was shocked. "Son of AB** Wei Qiu, how could you be so honest? Your lowered voice cursing was almost the same decibel as the sound of an airplane engine. It was deafening. It would be difficult for Yuchi Yen not to hear it. This was troublesome." As expected, Yuchi Yen raised his sword-like eyebrows and looked at Wei Qiu, saying, "This lowly one has always lived in Divine Shadow City in Duphi Province. I did not know that the Imperial Guards of Lanyan City actually had such a rude person. Her Highness Qin Yin's beauty is unparalleled and her fame is well known throughout the world. Among the younger generation of the Empire, how many men do not admire Her Highness? How did my sincere heart become flattery in your mouth? Commander Lin Muyu, don't you think it's time for you to discipline your subordinates?" Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said with a smile, "All right, I will discipline them strictly when I return. I have troubled Lord Yuchi." He looked like a stinking hooligan, and Yuchi Yen could not continue to blame him. However, Yuchi Yen was, after all, a man of his word among the younger generation of the Duphi province. How could he swallow this vexation? In a low voice, he mocked and ridiculed, "I thought that the Imperial Guard were all heroes, but I didn't expect that they were just a bunch of rats who only know how to drive wolves and hunt dogs." "What are you talking about, you dog?" Xia Hosang's explosive temper could not be tolerated in an instant. Lin Muyu said with a smile, "I do not know what Lord Yuchi is saying. Why is the Imperial Guard a group of scoundrels who only know how to drive wolves and hunt dogs? Isn't that so?" Yuchi Yen sneered. "His Highness's safety is protected by the Imperial Army. The Royal Guards are dispensable, and you Eagle Guards are only here to hunt some spiritual beasts for the royal family to pass the winter. If you can do it, I'm afraid the hunting dogs of the hunters can also do it. If you really have the ability, I'm afraid His Highness would not have to go through the danger of Deer Cry Park." Qin Yin's face was full of displeasure. Lord Yuchi, Lin Muyu did not buy it. She reached out and blocked in front of Qin Yin. She looked at Yuchi Yen and said indifferently, "Do you know how many Imperial Guards died in the danger of Deer Garden? Yuchi Yen, who do you think you are? You only forged a few trashy weapons and you dare to be complacent here? Isn't the Yuchi family known as a weapon-forging family? Do you dare to compete with me?" Yuchi Yen laughed coldly. "Competing in weapon forging? A boorish fellow like you, do you know how to control the fire and purify the iron?" Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said, "You and I will each forge a sword for His Highness tonight. The sword must be engraved with His Highness' name. We will test it in Zetian Hall tomorrow morning. Do you dare?" "Why not? What are the stakes?" Yuchi Yen laughed coldly with a card up his sleeve. "I will bet however much money you brought to Lan Yen City this time." Yuchi Yen gritted his teeth and said, "I didn't bring too many gold coins, but I brought 200,000 gold notes from the Imperial Bank of Gold. Do you dare to bet?" "Why not?" Lin Muyu was even more confident and said, "Then please bear witness to this bet, Your Highness." "All right." Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu with some doubt. She did not know that Lin Muyu knew how to forge weapons. Even Lin Muyu's weapons were bought by Qin Yin after he earned money from his alchemy skills. In truth, Lin Muyu did not want to stand out at first. He also wanted to hide the fact that he was good at forging, but Yuchi Yen was too overbearing this time. If he did not suppress his arrogance, the entire Imperial army would be humiliated. Qin Yin sent them out of the hall and said with a slight frown, "Brother Yu, are you really going to bet with Yuchi Yen? It is said that apart from a few old fellows from Tianshu province and Lingnan, there are very few people who can forge a sharper weapon than him." "Don't worry," Lin Muyu looked at the attendant at the side and said, "Bring a brush and ink. Have His Highness write his name for me." "Yes, Your Highness." A few minutes later, the brush and ink arrived, but the empty Zetian Palace did not seem to have a place to place the paper. Placing the paper on the ground would be detrimental to Her Highness's dignity. Just as Qin Yin was looking for a place with her eyes wide open, Lin Muyu knelt on one knee and bent down. She said, "Little Yin, place the paper on my back and write." "Can I?" Qin Yin giggled. "Why not?" "All right then." Placing the paper on Lin Muyu's back with the armor as the base, Qin Yin dipped the paper in ink. Her left hand held the long sleeve of her right hand, and with a blissful smile on her face, she quickly wrote the book. Lin Muyu stood up and held Qin Yin's words in her hands. Blowing on the ink, she could not help but praise Qin Yin's handwriting. This semi-cursive script seemed to have the essence of Wang Shiji. In terms of calligraphy, Lin Muyu would probably never be able to match up to her in this lifetime. "All right, we will see you tomorrow." Come before the sword contest." "Got it." Chapter 190. After returning to the Eagle Nest camp in the afternoon, he immediately closed the gates and began forging. He still had some 10,000-year dark steel left from the Imperial Merchant Guild. Along with the Thunder Radiance Umbrella Dragon Spirit Stone, he believed that the forged weapon would not be inferior to Yuchi Yan's. At this time, he felt a slight itch on his shoulder. The wound had already begun to scab over. The effects of the first-rank healing medicine were indeed frighteningly good. 1. The treasure refining cauldron was brought out and began to smelt the 10,000-year dark steel. Perhaps it was due to the increase in strength, but his battle aura had become pure. In less than an hour, nearly 30 kilograms of 10,000-year dark steel had been completely melted. Strands of starlight rose from the molten iron, and under the burning of the 6th-level heavenly flame, the purity was quickly refined. Not long after, the 30 kilograms of dark steel had become around 20 kilograms. This was also what Lin Muyu wanted to see. Although Qin Yin's cultivation was not ordinary, she was still a girl. The sword she used could not be too heavy, at least not as thick and heavy as her Dragon Spirit sword. She took out the 10,000-year Umbrella Dragon Spirit Stone and placed it into the treasure refining cauldron. After about 2 hours, the Umbrella Dragon Spirit rushed out from the Spirit Stone and howled towards Lin Muyu. The treasure refining cauldron's flame barrier quickly repelled the Umbrella Dragon's attack. Lin Muyu pulled out the dragon spirit sword and slashed out with a roar. Immediately, a formless aura enveloped the area, and the sword light destroyed the umbrella dragon's beast spirit. The beast spirit's power immediately surrendered and slowly sank into the molten iron. This was considered complete. Lin Muyu called out and said, "I want to forge a sword for Xiao Yin. Help me choose a sword model that is suitable for girls, the more elegant and refined ones." Lulu chuckled. "All right. Fortunately, I brought along the weapon database when I transmigrated with you. There are many, many sword models. Lulu will help you select a few for you to choose from." "All right." Not long after, a series of light screens appeared in front of Lin Muyu. Lulu picked out more than a dozen elegant and exquisite sword models, and almost every one of them was very beautiful. Finally, Lin Muyu chose one of them. The blade was ordinary in width, but it was very thin. Moreover, the body of the sword was engraved with a simple flower totem, which matched the shape of the empire's purple Yinghua very well. Afterwards, Lin Muyu unfolded the handwriting of Qin Yin's name and said, "Lulu, scan the outline of these 2 words and engrave them on the blade near the hilt. Is that okay?" "A piece of cake." Lulu's light form danced in the air above the paper, and very soon, the engraving of the 2 words, Qin Yin, appeared on the sword model. This sword was slowly taking shape. Lin Muyu closed her eyes and poured her spirit sense into the blade, starting to refine the compound edge. This kind of edge came from modern weapon forging techniques, but it was compatible with ancient weapon forging techniques. This was also one of the reasons why Lin Muyu's weapons were so sharp and sturdy. The dragon spirit had been tempered into a total of 10 compound edges, but perhaps because the iron and the purity of the refined soul weren't high enough, Lin Muyu couldn't continue after she had tempered 8 compound edges. However, it was still not bad. At the very least, this sword's grade was definitely far higher than the prairie fire sword. An entire afternoon was spent on this sword, and the forging was finally completed before dinner. Puchi. When Lin Muyu placed the sword into the pool, steam immediately filled the air. Lin Muyu reached into the water and fished out the sword. She smiled and said, "This sword does not have a name yet. Since little Yin's name is on the hilt, I will call it the Purple Ing Sword." Lulu chuckled and said, "A good name." Lin Muyu channeled her strength into the Purple Ing Sword, and in the next moment, a golden dragon light appeared around the blade, proving that this sword had already entered the saint rank. "Congratulations, big brother. This is a 7th-tier saint rank sword," Lulu said with a smile. Lin Muyu nodded with a smile. She found a scabbard that suited her ears better from the spare scabbard in the room and sheathed it with a clang. The sound of the sword ringing lingered for a long time. It was indeed a good sword. In fact, it wasn't much inferior to Qin Jin's Desolation Sword. Next was the real highlight. It was time to reforge the demonic noise saber. Drawing out the demonic noise saber from the pouch at her waist, she spread her hands and gathered her fighting chi between the blades. She controlled the demonic noise saber to form a 4-edged flying saber. This was the true form of the demonic noise saber, and it was also the form with the strongest killing power. It had an extremely strong penetrative and destructive power. However, against a true expert, the demonic noise saber would be useless. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and threw the demonic noise saber into the cauldron. He sighed inwardly. "This is the famous weapon created by the famous General Feng. What will it become in my hands?" At this time, Wei Chao's voice came from outside. "Milord, it's time for dinner. Would you like to come out and eat something?" "No need, just leave dinner for me." "All right." Closing his eyes, Lin Muyu spread out his spiritual sense. He wasn't in a hurry to refine the demonic noise saber. He first sent his spiritual sense into the saber, analyzing its original design layer by layer. In the end, he discovered that the internal force of the demonic noise saber was extremely mysterious. There were layers upon layers, and the structure was actually somewhat similar to the molecular structure of a diamond. No wonder it was so sturdy. Lulu, record the original structure of the demonic noise saber. Later, we will refine it according to this method. Yes, big brother. At this time, Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile inwardly. Bringing Lulu along when he transmigrated was like bringing along a supercomputer. The reason why he was able to live so smoothly in Lanyan City was because of Lulu's contribution. The heavenly fire slowly lingered around the demonic noise saber. It didn't completely melt it, but refined and purified it layer by layer. It turned out that the person who created the demonic noise saber definitely didn't have such exquisite craftsmanship. In terms of purity, it was much inferior. Furthermore, Lin Muyu also discovered that the metal of the demonic noise saber was very mysterious. It didn't belong to the categories of dark iron, cold iron, or wrought iron. It was somewhat similar to the iron of the dragon spirit sword. It was an unknown metal brought by a meteorite from outer space, but its hardness and strength were undoubtedly strong. After about 3 hours of tempering, all the impurities in the demon noise saber had been purified. The entire demon noise saber had shrunk by almost a size. However, the blade was glowing, sharper, and more nimble. At this time, the crucial moment had arrived. It was time to refine the 13,400-year-old Sky Beast Spirit Stone. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. With a grave expression, she placed the Heaven Beast Spirit Stone into the crafting cauldron as if she was facing a formidable enemy. Needless to say, the beast soul backlash from the Spirit Stone would definitely be extraordinarily strong. In fact, Lin Muyu was already mentally prepared to fight to the death. Moreover, the Heaven Beast was beheaded by her in 3 slashes, so its hatred for her wasn't small. It wouldn't be easy to make this ferocious beast's soul completely submit to her. However, if she couldn't truly tame the Heaven Beast's soul, then the plan to reforge the demonic noise saber would be considered a failure. Roar, roar. The faint roar of the Heaven Beast came from the Spirit Stone, sending a chill down Lin Muyu's spine. The heavenly fire in the crafting cauldron lingered around the Spirit Stone like a skirt, burning and refining it inch by inch. The Heaven Beast's Spirit Stone was extraordinarily stubborn. Fortunately, Lin Muyu's battle aura had become extremely pure under the refinement of the Dragon Forging Bone Remnant Scroll and was far more vigorous than cultivators of the same rank. Even so, it took her nearly 5 hours to successfully refine the Spirit Stone in the middle of the night. With a crackling sound, the outer layer of the Spirit Stone slowly peeled off under the scorching heat of the fire, revealing the golden layer of spirit energy within. "It's coming!" Lin Muyu's heart trembled. Sure enough, an invisible beast's soul pounced toward her in a golden light. The Heaven Beast finally launched its counterattack. With a pung sound, it directly smashed the flame barrier of the crafting cauldron. However, Lin Muyu was already prepared. She opened her right hand, and the dragon spirit sword rotated rapidly. The dragon flame spiral break pierced the abdomen of the Heaven Beast's beast soul. The energy collided, and the dragon spirit sword directly pierced the beast's soul's abdomen. It was deeply embedded and couldn't be pulled out. However, it seemed like it couldn't completely injure or tame this unyielding beast soul. Lin Muyu turned around and took a few steps back. She shook her arms, and an endless amount of dark force appeared on her arms. She punched out with both fists and shouted, "For Luminary's demon cry!" Boom! The mighty 7 Luminaries' dark force almost shattered half of the Heaven Beast's head, but the beast was still unwilling to surrender. With a low roar, it placed its claws on Lin Muyu's shoulders and opened its bloody mouth to devour Lin Muyu's head. "It's over. Am I going to die?" Lin Muyu was shocked, and her heart was filled with despair. At this moment, time seemed to stop, but the blood in Lin Muyu's body boiled like never before. The boiling power in her blood was about to burst out. Finally, with a clear dragon roar, a 5-clawed golden true dragon covered in raging flames broke out of her body and directly hovered around Lin Muyu's body. The golden dragon opened its mouth and roared at the Heaven Beast with the majesty of a king. Roar, roar. The dragon's roar was like an invisible domain attack, which prevented the Sky Beast from biting down no matter how hard it tried. The Sky Beast even showed a trace of fear when it saw the true dragon's constellation. It whimpered and crawled back into the crafting cauldron. Then, it knelt on the ground with its claws and slowly lowered its head. It actually showed a look of subservience. Lin Muyu was very pleased. Even a divine beast like the heaven beast couldn't do anything in front of a king true dragon. Was this the law of heaven and earth? The strong were respected, and the weak could only submit. While feeling proud, he didn't forget to pretend to be arrogant. Evil creature, you won't know how powerful I am if I don't show my true appearance. Lulu giggled. Brother, that's enough. Hurry up and refine it. Chapter 191. After taming it, the heavenly fire lingered around the beast's soul, slowly burning it into starlight that seeped into the demon noise saber. At the same time, Lin Muyu's heart stirred as if she could feel the heaven beast's submission to her. The demon noise saber trembled slightly, and with a hum, a golden light flew out from the demon noise saber and transformed into a miniature version of the heaven beast. It arrogantly entrenched itself beside Lin Muyu's leg and even raised its head to rub against his knee, acting like a spoiled child. Lin Muyu was secretly delighted. With a divine beast-level refined soul like the heaven beast guarding the demon noise saber, the lethality of this demon noise saber would definitely be incomparable to before. The tempering of the blade was abnormally smooth this time. It wasn't until Lin Muyu had tempered 12 compound edges that she felt she couldn't continue tempering. There was no doubt that this demon noise saber would be even sharper than the dragon spirit sword. The flames slowly dimmed, and the demon noise saber sank into the water to cool down for a moment. Lin Muyu picked it up again, and with a light grip, she could feel the resonance between the heaven beast soul and herself. Her soul and the demon noise saber's refined soul had already harmonized. In other words, they had already signed a soul contract. As long as this demon noise saber was in Lin Muyu's hands, its power would multiply. What rank? Lin Muyu asked. Lulu said, 3rd rank Saint grade, 1 rank higher than the dragon spirit sword. Wow, Lin Muyu grinned and said, I wonder how powerful it is. Big brother will know once you try it. This time, there was no need to throw it. With a thought, Lin Muyu transformed her battle chi into an invisible force and infused it into the demon noise saber. The demon noise saber immediately flew out with a flash of golden light. Moreover, in its flight path, the demon noise saber actually became invisible with a xiao sound, leaving only a sharp whistling sound. He's invisible. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. Lulu said, That's right, big bro. This demon noise saber is a light-type weapon because it refined the Sky Beast's soul. The Sky Beast's signature skill is to use the camouflage effect of the law of light to copy the light from its back onto its front, creating an instant invisibility effect. This demon noise saber is the same now. As long as Big Bro uses his battle chi, it can become invisible. Great. Lin Muyu was ecstatic. This was a true hidden weapon. Only an invisible hidden weapon could kill without leaving a trace. This demon noise saber seemed to have become a lethal weapon after being refined by the heaven beast. From now on, she had to be cautious when using the demon noise saber. If it wasn't a mortal enemy, she wouldn't use it, because with the demon noise saber, killing became much easier. With a thought, the demon noise saber spun rapidly in the air, emitting a sharp whistling sound. After spinning several times in the room, it slowly came to a stop in front of Lin Muyu. Take it down, disassemble it, and put it into the knife pouch. Lethal weapon, definitely a lethal weapon. At this time, Lin Muyu finally felt a little tired. She went out to eat something, then returned to her room to sleep. There were many things waiting for him the next day. First was the bet with Yu Qiyen, and second was the long-awaited sword duel conference. The ranking in the sword duel conference was secondary. The most important thing was the dragon talisman. A talisman that could command 10,000 troops was simply too important in this world. Not long after, Shaochen fell into a deep sleep. He cultivated the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll on his own. The golden martial spirit gourd faintly appeared above the chi si in his abdomen. It quickly absorbed and refined the spiritual energy of the night. The next morning he woke up early. His complexion was much better, and the injury on his shoulder shouldn't affect him too much. Most importantly, Lin Muyu's strength had recovered very well. She could almost use more than 90% of her battle energy. The injury wouldn't affect her combat strength more than 10%, so she could almost fight for the championship of the Sword Duel Conference. Breakfast in the morning was still the Eagle Nest Camp's military meal, 2 large flatbread and a large bowl of meat soup. However, perhaps because he was the commander of the camp, there were 7 or 8 pieces of wild boar meat in the soup. He didn't mind that much, so he ate and drank it in large mouthfuls. Only after eating and drinking to his heart's content would he be able to face the challenges of the Sword Duel Conference today. After getting dressed, he leaped onto his horse, carrying 2 swords on his back. One was the Dragon Spirit Sword, and the other was the purple blade sword that he was prepared to give to Qin Yin. Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang personally accompanied him to participate in the Sword Duel Conference, while the other 2 centurions of the royal guards were sent by Lin Muyu to pay their respects to Han Xiao's parents, wife, and children with 2,000 gold blade coins. This was also the rule of the royal guards. Once someone died in the line of duty, they would have to compensate them with 2,000 gold blade coins. In addition, according to Lin Muyu's instructions, they were to bring Han Xiao's family to the empire to settle down and ensure that they didn't have to worry about anything for the rest of their lives. Han Xiao's eldest son could even join the army when he came of age and receive the lowest rank in the empire's army. The viewing platform in front of the imperial city was filled with soldiers and commoners. There was no end in sight. It was said that the emperor and the princess would personally attend the Sword Duel Conference today, so many commoners were hoping to catch a glimpse of the emperor and her highness. Of course, there were also some people with ulterior motives who wanted to kill the emperor and usurp the throne. Thus, the area within 200 meters of the viewing platform was heavily guarded. Only the descendants of the aristocratic families and members of the empire's army were allowed to approach. Commoners had to watch from a few hundred meters away. This was something that could not be helped. Wei Chou walked in front and shouted softly, "Please make way, let us pass." This group of people were all wearing the armor of the royal guards. Logically speaking, Wei Chou could have shouted at the commoners to retreat, but he didn't do so. This was probably related to his birth as a commoner. Lin Muyu liked this feeling because she liked subordinates who didn't take advantage of their power to bully others. They walked all the way into Zetian Palace. The moment they arrived, Chu Huayin came over and smiled. You're finally here. Hurry up, Her Majesty, Her Highness, and that Yu Qiyan are all waiting for you. Is that so? Lin Muyu smiled as she dismounted from her horse and entered Zetian Palace with Chu Huayin. In the main hall, all the civil and military officials were present. Feng Jixing, Zhen Yifan, Luo Xing, Qin Lei, and the other important civil and military officials stood closest to the throne. Lin Muyu was led by Chu Huayin along the red carpet in the middle and directly stood next to Feng Jixing. When he raised his head, he saw Qin Yin sitting on the throne beside the throne. She was dressed in a very ladylike princess dress, and she stuck out her tongue at him. She was originally a peerless beauty, but at this moment, her girlish demeanor made the group of officials fall head over heels for her. At this moment, no one doubted that Qin Yin wasn't the most beautiful woman in the empire. Qin Jin smiled and said, You're here? I heard that you made a bet with Yu Qiyan from the Yuqi clan yesterday to see who could forge a better weapon for Her Highness Yin. It just so happens that I'm here today to witness it with my own eyes. Lin Muyu nodded and took out the purple ing sword wrapped in black cloth from her back. She smiled and said, This sword is called the purple ing sword. If you like it, Xiao Yin will like it. Yu Qiyan laughed coldly and walked forward. He held a long sword in a white jade scabbard and said, Purple ing sword? The name isn't bad, but I don't know if its character is up to par. This Ling Yu sword of mine, it's definitely 1,000,000 times better than the purple ing sword. Is that so? How are we going to compete? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Yu Qiyan seemed to want to humiliate Lin Muyu on purpose. He said, How about you and I, one person and one sword, fight with all our strength? Whoever's sword breaks or curls will lose. Lin Muyu, do you dare to bet with me? Why not? Come on. Alright. Feng Jixing, Chu Huayin, Zhen Yifan, Qin Lei, and the others all retreated to create an empty space. In addition, a few royal guards stood guard beside Qin Jin and Qin Yin to prevent them from getting caught in the crossfire. Clang! Yu Qiyan's sword was unsheathed. The blade was sparkling like jade, transparent and resplendent. It was indeed a good sword, but it seemed to be only a mysterious rank weapon. At this time, Yu Qiyan let out a low roar. Suddenly, true qi dispersed in all directions. He actually released his own martial spirit, which was in the form of a flame. For a moment, the spirit jade sword issued a clear sword cry. Looking at Lin Muyu, Yu Qiyan's eyes were full of disdain. What, you don't dare to draw your sword? Lin Muyu laughed inwardly and slowly untied the black cloth covering the sword. Although the scabbard was exquisite, it was plain and unadorned compared to the other's white jade scabbard. This made Yu Qiyan laugh coldly. This kind of trash actually dares. Clang! The purple ing sword was unsheathed. Lin Muyu deliberately didn't release the light of the purple ing sword Saint Beast. She held the sword with one hand and held it horizontally like a master. With a shout, her battle energy exploded and turned into a milky white cyclone that circled around her. The holy temple's battle robe fluttered in the wind. Her entire aura seemed to have changed in an instant. In an instant, the group of women participating in the court meeting, including Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, the First Lady, and the General's daughter, were all dumbfounded. Right now, Lin Muyu's strength and appearance were absolutely unparalleled in the empire. In terms of looks, Lin Muyu had probably surpassed Chu Huaying, Feng Jixing, and Zhen Fang. Yu has stepped into the second sky of the heaven realm. Feng Jixing laughed. Chu Huaying nodded. This brat is advancing really quickly. At this moment, an envoy dressed as a foreigner couldn't help but exclaim, "The strength of the great Qin's royal guards is truly invincible." Qin Jin gently stroked his beard, his eyes full of praise and gratification. The son he wanted was someone like Lin Muyu. The Qin Empire didn't need sheep, it only needed lions. Come on. Lin Muyu looked at Yu Qiyan provocatively. Yu Qiyan knew that he couldn't compare to Lin Muyu in terms of strength, but a clash of weapons didn't rely entirely on strength. Lin Muyu's sword was simple and unadorned. Although it looked elegant and refined, it was definitely not useful. He still had a chance. Ha! With a loud shout, Yu Qiyan raised his sword and slashed forward. His true qi was instantly raised to the peak. Lin Muyu rushed forward, and in the blink of an eye, her battle energy surged into the sword. Immediately, a golden dragon coiled around the blade. In an instant, Yu Qiyan's face turned purple. He knew he had lost. Clang! They brushed past each other, and a clear sound rang out. Yu Qiyan's spirit jade sword had been broken into two under the head-on collision. How? How is this possible? The spirit jade sword is a mysterious grade 3rd stage. Yu Qiyan withered like a frosted eggplant. Chapter 192. Lin Muyu had broken the proud work of the weaponsmithing master, Yu Qiyan, with a single strike. This was undoubtedly shocking news. Many important officials had thought that Lin Muyu, a member of the Imperial Guard, would definitely lose, but no one had expected that Lin Muyu would win so cleanly. The Yuqi family's treasured sword had not been damaged, but had been directly broken and destroyed. Mu has indeed won. Tang Xiaoxi stood behind Feng Jixing in her position as a princess. She was dressed in a fiery red embroidered princess robe and looked very beautiful. She was also the first person present to speak. Perhaps she was the only one who was full of confidence in Lin Muyu? Beside the emperor's throne, Qin Yin also covered her mouth and laughed. Imperial Father, you are the witness. Shouldn't you announce the results? Qin Jin recovered from his shock and smiled. As the witness, I now announce that Lin Muyu has won the competition. Then, according to the previous bet, Lord Yu Qiyan will have to pay the Imperial Guard, Lin Muyu, 200,000 Jin Yin coins. I heard that the Yuqi family has been operating in Heaven's Pivot Province for many years. 200,000 Jin Yin coins should be a small token, right? As your majesty has decreed. Yu Qiyan's face was deathly pale. After he respectfully cupped his fists and bowed, he took out a gold note from his bosom. The amount of 200,000 Jin coins was clearly written on it. It was also stamped with Yu Qiyan's handprint and personal signature, as well as the Yuchi family seal. With this, the gold note was in effect. He presented the gold note with both hands and said with a cold look in his eyes, "Lin Muyu, this is what you deserve." Lin Muyu took the gold note and stuffed it into her cosmos sack. She cupped her fists and smiled. "Thank you, Lord Yu Qiyan, for your reward." Emperor Qin Jin laughed and said, You may enter the ranks." Originally, Lin Muyu did not have the qualifications to be one of the ministers in the imperial court. After all, he was only a mere level 6 young dragon general. Those who were able to stand here were at least of the 3rd grade. However, today was the day of the sword duel tournament, so he was exempted from being a military general. There were 2 people standing behind Qin Lei. One was the Dragon Guard commander Chu Huaying, the other was the Tiger Guard commander Zhuge Yun. Hence, there was still one more position that belonged to Lin Muyu, the Eagle Guard commander. But just as Lin Muyu was about to walk over, Yu Qiyan, who was behind her, growled, "Lin Muyu, wait. What's wrong?" He slowly turned around. There was a trace of doubt in Yu Qiyan's eyes as he said, "According to what I know, a weapon that can break a profound rank 3rd level sword should at least be a saint rank weapon. Just now I saw the saint beast soul of your sword. Where did you get this sword from?" Logically speaking, with your age, it's impossible for you to comprehend the craftsmanship of fire and iron and forge a saint rank weapon, right? He knew that this matter would not be resolved so easily. If he did not give an explanation, Lin Muyu would definitely not be able to get past this obstacle. Hence, he cupped his fists and smiled, saying, "Not long ago, a hermit who was well versed in the art of blacksmithing passed by Lanyan City and just happened to stop at the back of Eagle Nest Mountain. Thus, I have some relations with him, so I bought the materials and asked him to forge this purple ing sword for me to present to Her Highness. Lord Yuchi, our bet was only to see who could take out a stronger sword. It did not say that I had to forge it myself." "I see," Yu Qiyan actually laughed. He must have felt that he was still the strongest blacksmith of the younger generation in the world. Hence, he regained some confidence and cupped his fists with a smile, saying, "Although Lord Lin Muyu played a trick, but I, Yu Qiyan, am willing to concede defeat. These 200,000 Jinin coins shall be considered as a gift to the Eagle Nest camp. Thank you, Lord Yuchi, for your generosity." Lin Muyu walked forward with the purple ing sword in her hand. She looked up at Qin Jin from afar and said, "Your Majesty, Lin Muyu hereby presents this 7th rank saint rank purple ing sword to Her Highness. I hope that your Majesty will allow it." Qin Jin smiled happily and said, "Of course. Xiao Yin is your sister, so it is only right that you, as her brother, should do the same. Xiao Yin, hurry up and accept your big brother Yu's gift." Qin Yin was even more overjoyed. She walked to the edge of the golden steps and reached out to hold the tassels under her princess robe. She walked down the steps in a very ladylike manner. Her beautiful eyes were in high spirits as she looked at Lin Muyu with a smile. Her eyes were filled with deep affection. She raised her face to look at Lin Muyu, and her facial features suddenly became restrained. She obediently made a face at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, "Big brother Yu, thank you for your purpling sword." Looking at the eldest princess who was as beautiful as a fairy, Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel her heart sway at this moment. She presented the sword and said, "Your Highness, please examine it and see if you like it." Qin Yin took the sword and pulled it out of the sheath with a dang sound. The blade was surrounded by a faint flame dragon pattern, and the overall design was very exquisite and elegant. Near the hilt of the sword, the 2 words Qin Yin were engraved. That was her own handwriting. Under the surging power of the sword spirit, a flame lingered around the engraved words, and a flame actually appeared 1 centimeter away from the blade. Qin Yin. It was very beautiful, and after cutting Yu Qiyan's sword in half, there wasn't even a scratch on the edge of the sword. The 8 compound edges were not fake. "Do you like it?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Qin Yin sheathed the sword and caressed the sheath lovingly. She said, I like it. Thank you, big brother you. As long as you like it. I'm going to join the ranks. In a while, big brother you, do your best at the sword duel tournament. Got it. Thank you, your highness, for your encouragement. Lin Muyu smiled lightly and returned to Qin Lei's back. He didn't show that he was overly intimate with Qin Yin in the hall. After all, this wasn't a good thing. Qin Yin was her highness, and who knew how many princes and nobles were thinking about this heir to the empire? The closer Lin Muyu and Qin Yin were, the more enemies they would make. With the current situation, Lin Muyu didn't want to attract more jealousy and hatred. After all, his strength was still not enough. If it was the Longdan army camp that had developed and was able to have 100,000 elite troops, then Lin Muyu could be unscrupulous. Before his strength was not enough, he should first endure. This was the first principle that Lin Muyu learned in this world. Qin Yin held the Xin sword and returned to the emperor's side. Qin Jin smiled slightly and said, "Today is a big day. The sword duel tournament that is held once every 3 years. All the outstanding talents of the empire will participate in this banquet. I wonder who will get the dragon talisman this year. Let's go. My beloved subjects, follow me out of the Zetian Palace and to the viewing platform." "Yes, your majesty." Qin Jin shook his arms and walked down from the throne. Qin Yin chased after him and held her father's arm. Under Qin Lei's gaze, Lin Muyu and Chu Huaying protected the emperor and the princess on both sides. Qin Yin turned around and saw Lin Muyu. She couldn't help but smile. "Big brother you, your injuries haven't completely healed. Don't force yourself in today's sword duel tournament. Don't worry. My injuries have more or less recovered." That's good." At the side, Tang Xiaoxi quickly caught up and said with a smile, "Mu, if you meet my older brother, Tang Bin, you must be careful. His Firefox seal has already been cultivated to the 7th layer. Its power is extremely shocking." Xiaoxi's older brother? Lin Muyu was stunned. At the side, Qin Yin smiled and explained, "In the 7 Seas Tang sect, Tang Lan has a total of 3 sons. The eldest son only has a daughter, Xiaoxi. The second son has 2 sons, Tang Bin and Tang Lu. Duke Lan's 3rd son also has a son and a daughter. The son is called Tang Tian and the daughter is called Tang Wei. It can be said that in the 7 Seas Tang sect, Tang Bin, Tang Lu, and Tang Tian are all important competitors for Xiaoxi. It is still unknown who will inherit Duke Lan's title in the end." Lin Muyu faintly smiled and said, "According to my understanding, in the Qin Empire, the inheritance of titles is passed down to the eldest and not the youngest. If this is the case, Xiaoxi is the eldest son's daughter, so her chances of inheriting the title should be the highest, right?" Tang Xiaoxi shook her head and said with a smile, "It's not like what you think, Mu. The 7 Seas Tang sect cultivates a secret art called Firefox seal. The Firefox seal has a total of 9 layers. It is the Tang sect's most overbearing secret art. Cultivating it with the Firefox martial soul will yield twice the results with half the effort. So, generally speaking, whoever has the strongest Firefox seal will have the most qualifications to become the successor of the Tang sect. As for me, I have almost no chance." But Lin Muyu was puzzled. Tang Xiaoxi giggled, because, since ancient times, the Firefox seal is powerful and overbearing. All the females in the Tang sect are unable to cultivate it. Only the males can cultivate it, so that's how it is. Lin Muyu nodded and said with a smile, "Then Xiaoxi, my condolences." Tang Xiaoxi giggled, "I don't care who the successor of the Tang sect is. It's fine as long as grandfather dotes on me." Lin Muyu didn't say anything else. Perhaps it was better to be like Tang Xiaoxi, who had no desires or demands. Outside the imperial city, when Qin Jin, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Lei, and the other members of the imperial family stepped out of the Zetian Palace hall's entrance, the commoners in the distance cheered. Everyone squeezed together, wanting to see the emperor and her highness' true faces. "Be on guard, protect the safety of his majesty and her highness," Qin Lei shouted in a low voice. Immediately, a group of dragon guards and tiger guards spread out one after another, forming a 4-sided formation to protect the emperor, the princess, and the civil and military officials. However, these imperial guards didn't use a shield formation, because this would make it seem that the emperor wasn't close to the commoners. However, looking at the sea of people and the cheers in the distance, Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a little astonished. It was really very rare to have such popular support. As the commander of the Eagle Guards, Lin Muyu's position was getting further and further away from the emperor and the princess. Instead, she was walking side by side with Feng Jixing. Both of them had long swords strapped to their waists, their hands on the hilts of their swords, and their heroic white robes fluttered in the wind, looking very beautiful. Looks like His Majesty can also be considered to have the support of the people. Lin Muyu said softly with a smile. The corner of Feng Jixing's mouth curled up, and he said, "Ever since His Majesty ascended the throne, it can be said that he has proclaimed benevolence and virtue to the world." Although he fought in the north and south in the early years, he never raised taxes. Under the protection of the imperial capital, the weather in the 8 northern provinces is smooth, and there hasn't been any war for more than 10 years. The commoners live and work in peace and contentment, so naturally they will support this good emperor. I see. Lin Muyu wanted to say something, but she stopped herself. In fact, everyone understood that Qin Jin was more than benevolent, but lacked the authority of a monarch. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such undercurrents surging in the imperial army. Chapter 193. The sky-bearing empire is blessed with good weather, the empire will prosper, and the 4 seas will be at peace. Today, in accordance with the imperial edict of the Radiant Emperor, in order to demonstrate the strength of the empire's martial prowess, and for the prosperity of the empire's talents, this sword duel assembly will be held to determine the champion. Those who are able to obtain the top 10 positions will be rewarded. This competition will be watched by His Majesty and Her Highness Qin Yin. There are a total of 47 participants, and they have gathered the talents of the 12 provinces. After the eunuch finished reading the imperial edict, 2 royal guards immediately carried a huge wooden board and placed it on the viewing platform. On the board, there were names written in golden paint. There were a total of 47 participants, and the names of the participants were displayed in front of her. Lin Muyu looked at it from afar. Fortunately, her opponent in the first round wasn't Chu Huaying, Feng Jixing, or Qin Lei. Instead, it was a person called Ouyang Jingtian. She didn't know where he came from, but she just needed to beat him up. Dong, dong, dong. A battle drum made of cowhide thundered, and a formless killing aura instantly filled the viewing platform. All the participating martial artists had already gathered around the viewing platform, and they were verified by the officials of the Zetian Palace Hall. After that, they waited for the start of the competition. This process was slightly tedious, but Lin Muyu had a lot of patience. She sat on the cold stone steps and looked at the officials around the viewing platform with an indifferent gaze. The viewing platform surrounded the stage in a fan shape. Qin Jin, Qin Yin, and the rest were sitting in the center under the protection of the royal guards and Chu Chu. On the 2 sides were the viewing areas for the officials and nobles of the empire. Many noblewomen were wrapped in fox fur scarves, and their bodies were trembling as they watched the battle. They even ordered their servants to serve them fruits and fragrant tea from time to time. It felt like an arena. Lin Muyu couldn't help but snicker. She had accidentally become a performer to please others. She really didn't expect it. Not long after, the eunuch announced with a loud voice, "The sword duel assembly has officially begun. The first round, the first group, will be led by the commander of the imperial army, Feng Jixing, against the expert from Swift White Province's Sunset City, Luo Jingtian." Feng Jixing lifted his long saber and leapt onto the stage. His eyes were indifferent. The windcutter saber was surrounded by a dense purple radiance. Streaks of lightning darted around the saber. Feng Jixing had already released his purple electric flame wolf martial soul the moment he stepped onto the stage. It was clear that he was going all out. Although Luo Jingtian was below the age of 35, he already had a beard. He cupped his fist and smiled. "I never thought that I would encounter General Feng in the first round. This subordinate is in trouble. Feng Jixing faintly smiled. General Luo Jingtian, welcome to Lanyan City for a one-day tour. Luo Jingtian. The battle was very simple. Feng Jixing used 3 moves of the wind blade technique to blast Luo Jingtian and his sword out of the stage. Luo Jingnan looked extremely miserable as he cupped his fist and said, "See you." Feng Jixing also cupped his fist and said respectfully, "Thank you for letting me win." On the viewing platform, Lin Muyu curled her lips and said, "Big Brother Feng has become even more powerful after stepping into the second heavenly stage." Qin Lei sat at the side and said, "This old brat Feng Jixing's blade technique is indeed the best in the imperial capital." Luo Jingtian's defeat in 3 moves is also within expectations. On the other hand, Chu Huaiming, you actually advanced to the next round without a draw. You are really envious of others. Chu Huaiming was in a daze as he looked into the distance. In the direction he was looking at, there was also a beautiful girl staring at him in a daze. It was none other than Zhen Xiang, who was sitting beside Jin Yifan and Zhen Fang, the eldest daughter of the divine marquis residence. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Someone's mind has already wandered off. At this moment, Feng Jixing also walked over with his blade in hand. He looked at Chu Huaiming and revealed a disdainful expression. He smiled and said, "Our brother Chu doesn't have much future prospects in this lifetime. This kind of love really gives me goosebumps." Qin Lei grinned. Lin Muyu also laughed. At this moment, another person walked over. It was Qin Yen, who was wearing the Saint Sanctum's Gold Star instructor robe. "Hi, Big Brother Lin Muyu is also here." "Ah, Yen is here." Qin Lei smiled and said, "How long until your turn?" "I'm in the 7th group, no hurry." A group of experts gathered together was especially eye-catching. Many of the young ladies from the large clans on the viewing platform looked over here. Perhaps many of the young ladies' sweethearts were in this group. No matter if it was the handsome Chu Huaiming, or the unruly and handsome Feng Jixing, or even the heaven-gifted Lin Muyu, they were actually the targets of many young ladies' hearts. It was just that this group of fellows seemed to have no interest in love, and didn't even look those noble young ladies in the eye. In the 3rd group of the first round, Qin Lei went up. Having already stepped into the 2nd level of the heavenly realm, he was already incomparably tyrannical. Furthermore, he possessed the 1st-grade god-binding chains. In just 1 round, he used the splitting lightning light slash to directly defeat his opponent. If he hadn't retracted his attack quickly, that brat's head would have already landed on the ground. Not long after, Qin Yen took the stage. His dragon-scale armor spirit was extremely gorgeous. His opponent's fierce attacks for 7 or 8 rounds didn't injure him in the slightest. On the contrary, Qin Yen played down 2 quick attacks and directly made his opponent concede. 7 Seas City's Luo Bin is going up. Feng Jixing smiled faintly. The Tang sect's Firefox seal can be said to be an absolute art. If you meet Tang Bin, you have to be careful. 3 years ago in the Sword Battle Assembly, he almost used the Firefox seal to defeat me. I heard that Tang Bin's Firefox seal has already been cultivated to the 7th level. 3 years ago he was only at the 5th level. This year will definitely be even more frightening. Lin Muyu, Chu Huaiming, and Qin Yen nodded together. Qin Lei grinned and said, "This kind of person can only run amok in 7 Seas City. Coming to the imperial capital, there are no less than 10 people who can defeat Tang Bin. Feng Jixing, why do you need to boost his morale?" Feng Jixing couldn't help but smile, but didn't argue. It wasn't excessive for Qin Lei to say that. After all, he had the qualifications to say that. On the tournament stage, Tang Bin was unarmed, his face full of arrogance. His opponent was a general carrying a battle axe. This general came from Tong Tian province. The golden purple flower at his collar glowed with a dazzling luster, and there were 2 golden hexagrams on his back. He was actually a captaincy-ranked high-ranking military officer. Tang Bin cupped his fists and smiled. "General Shi, I've learned a lot." The general didn't back down. Without saying anything, he waved his battle axe and rushed over with a roar. The axe glowed with a faint glow of Do Qi, and with a swing, It carried a murderous aura. With a simple and violent arc, it chopped towards Tang Bin's chest. Just as he was about to succeed, Tang Bin suddenly leaned back. It was actually a beautiful iron bridge. Roar! The fire fox martial spirit cried out, and flames began to linger on his battle boots. Tang Bin took the opportunity to kick the opponent's wrist, and with a "wong" sound, the battle axe flew out of the opponent's hand. Tang Bin then flipped himself up, and with his feet on the stone floor he punched out several times with his fists. The attacking general could only raise his arms to block, and the pring 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 sounds of battle chi colliding could be heard. The general could only raise his arms to block, and the ping 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 sounds of do chi colliding rang out. Both of them were at the first level of the heavenly stage, but the general didn't even seem to have the strength to retaliate. Just as his defense was broken, Tang Bin suddenly opened his right palm, and a fire fox imprint gushed out from his palm. He shouted in a low voice, "Heaven Rush Imprint!" 1. Flames erupted, and a fiery imprint directly penetrated the general's chest armor. Immediately, the general retreated a few steps, his face pale as he knelt on one knee. The do chi on his body had actually been scattered in one blow. In a trembling voice, he said, "I lost." The firefox imprint indeed lives up to its name. Tang Bin cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Thank you for letting me win." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "What a mysterious firefox imprint. Its power seems to be very violent. If Xiao Shi could also master the firefox imprint, I wonder who would be stronger than Tang Bin." Feng Jixing said with a smile, "Princess, she is a girl. I'm afraid she will never be able to practice the firefox imprint." Maybe. Lin Muyu looked at Tang Xiaoxi from afar, only to find that Tang Xiaoxi was also looking at her. Lin Muyu rubbed her nose and smiled at Tang Xiaoxi from afar. Immediately, Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red, and she hurriedly lowered her head. She didn't dare to look at this smelly hooligan, who dared to tease her. In the 13th round, it was finally Lin Muyu's turn to fight. Ouyang Jingtian is a famous expert in the Five Valleys city of the Zhangnan province. You have to be careful. I heard that Ouyang Jingtian has exquisite swordsmanship. Feng Jixing kindly reminded. Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. "Thank you, Big Brother Feng, for the reminder." Qin Lei said with a smile, "Feng Jixing, don't worry about you. Don't you know his strength? Ouyang Jingtian is nothing. He can only be considered unlucky to meet you." At this time, the eunuch walked onto the stage and announced loudly, "Next group, the commander of the Eagle Nest camp of the Imperial Army, Lin Muyu, will fight against the swordsmanship expert from the Zhangnan province, Ouyang Jingtian." Lin Muyu carried the dragon spirit sword and went onto the stage. Immediately, many people on the viewing platform exclaimed, "Wow, that's Lin Muyu, the Imperial Guard that rescued the Emperor in Dear Song Yuan. How can such a handsome gigolo be so powerful?" Unfortunately, Lin Muyu's spiritual pulse technique was so powerful that she could hear the words of this group of people. For a moment she felt very depressed. She could only use her strength to prove that she was not a gigolo. Ouyang Jingtian was a 30-years-old man. He was dressed in light clothes. His fingers were long and slender. He held a long sword that was shining brightly. His whole body was brimming with the demeanor of a grandmaster-level expert. Of course, this was only limited to the Zhangnan province. As for the Lanyan city, no matter how powerful his swordsmanship was, could it be more powerful than the Sword Elder? Lin Muyu's 4-elemental imperial sword was inherited from the Sword Elder. Clang. Ouyang Jingtian pulled out his long sword and said with a faint smile, "Madam Lin Muyu, I, Ouyang Jingtian, have learned a thing or two." Lin Muyu held her long sword and cupped her fists. "Please enlighten me." "Xiao." Ouyang Jingtian thrust his sword forward. The blade was surrounded by faint true qi. This was an expert who had not stepped into the heaven realm. For a moment, Lin Muyu changed her mind and directly used the scabbard to block. The moment Ouyang Jingtian's long sword was knocked away, Lin Muyu swept her long sword with the scabbard. Ouyang Jingtian spun his body in the air and did a somersault. He thrust his sword 4 times in the air. It was very swift and fierce. Lin Muyu directly called out her martial soul. The wall of the gourd rose. At the same time, she raised her arm. The dragon spirit sword with the scabbard rotated rapidly in the air. Ding, 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 sounds were heard several times. She deflected Ouyang Jingtian's sudden thrust. She felt a burst of numbness in her arm. Ouyang Jingtian could be ranked among the experts of swordsmanship. The strength of his sword qi should be the limit of an Earth Realm expert. Chapter 194. Clang! The scabbard knocked away her opponent's blade. Lin Muyu thrust her long sword forward, and the dragon soul sword, along with the scabbard, pierced towards Ouyang Jingtian. The battle energy around the scabbard formed a spiral of flame energy. Ouyang Jingtian was shocked. He hurriedly moved his sword and shook his wrist. Suddenly, the sword twisted like a poisonous snake and twisted around the dragon soul sword. Twisting sword technique. In an instant, Lin Muyu's battle chi was like a clay ox entering the sea. Naturally, Lin Muyu's attack was ineffective. However, he wasn't in a hurry. He suddenly loosened his grip and the dragon spirit sword was seized by Ouyang Jingtian's sword. At the same time, Lin Muyu's fist was surrounded by battle chi as he punched his opponent's shoulder. Ouyang Jingtian hurriedly turned his body to dodge. At the same time, he swept his sword horizontally. Hua! Lin Muyu bent her body and dodged the attack. At the same time, she raised her finger, and lightning flashed between her finger and the dragon spirit sword. The seized dragon spirit sword spun around as if it had a mind of its own and heavily stabbed Ouyang Jingtian's back with its scabbard attached. Bang! Ouyang Jingtian had suffered a heavy blow. How could he withstand it? Blood was already flowing out of his mouth. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked at the dragon spiritual sword that had returned to Lin Muyu's hand. I lost, he stood still and said, Imperial Guard Lin Muyu is worthy of her reputation. I, Ouyang Jingtian, am convinced. But, is it the Imperial sword technique? Lin Muyu nodded. It is indeed a kind of Imperial sword technique. Thank you for letting me win. Thank you for your advice. After the winner was decided, Lin Muyu's name was immediately placed in the top 24. When she returned to the viewing platform, Chu Huaying, Feng Jixing, and the others congratulated her. Although she was only in the top 24, Lin Muyu had already made a name for herself in public. There wasn't much suspense in the following matches. Zhen Fang, Yuan Lian, Ling Feng, and the other elites of the imperial capital easily won their matches one after another. Not long after, the names of 24 people were listed on the wooden board. They were painted with golden paint and looked to be sparkling under the sunlight. The matches were still going on. There were fewer and fewer people left in the selection area of the viewing platform. There were only 24 people left, and many of them were familiar with each other. Zhen Fang turned a blind eye to Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the rest. His resentment was too deep. On the other hand, Tang Bin from the Seven Seas Tang sect was able to chat with Zhen Fang, Yuan Lian, and the rest. It was as if they were all graduates from the imperial capital's Ares College and could be considered classmates. Yuan Lian held a thin sword in his hand, a faint smile on his face. Young Lord Tang's Firefox seal has already reached the 7th layer. This is truly worthy of celebration. It seems that the future leader of the Seven Seas Tang sect will be none other than young Lord Tang. Tang Bin smiled. You flatter me, Major General Yuan. Tang Bin am not worthy. I only hope to be in the top 10 of this tournament. With the cultivation of the 7th level of the Firefox seal, you will definitely be in the top 10. Young Master need not worry. Ling Feng, who was at the side, had a tinge of worry as he said, This year's sword dueling tournament is not going to be simple. Let's see how the next round goes. Once they meet Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Chu Huaying, and Lin Muyu, these 4 troublesome fellows, I'm afraid it will not be easy for anyone to win. Young Duke Zhenfang, what do you think? Zhenfang's expression was calm and he said, I'll just do my best. As for the outcome, let the heavens decide. Young Duke has a good cultivation base. However, I heard that when you were a deacon in the Divine Temple, You once sparred with Lin Muyu and the outcome was not decided. It seems that Lin Muyu does have some ability. It was clear that Zhen Fang was at a disadvantage in that sparring match. In an instant, Ling Feng's words caused Zhen Fang's face to turn ashen. He snorted, that Lin Muyu is just an opportunistic piece of trash. Just wait and see. Heh, we are naturally waiting to watch a good show. Oh right, I heard that young Duke's elder sister, the beauty ranked third on the beauty list, Cheng Xiang, has recently been in close contact with one of the imperial guards, Chu Huang. It seems that the Divine Marquis residence also values the status of the imperial guards and wants a good marriage? Ling Feng said with a smile that did not reach his eyes. In an instant, Zhen Fang was infuriated. He suddenly pulled out half of his sword and shouted, Ling Feng, if you dare to say another word, I will cut off your tongue and eat it with wine. Do you believe me? Who does Chu Huang think he is? How can a lowly commoner like him be worthy of my elder sister? My elder sister is just bewitched. After some time, she will naturally realize that Chu Huang is not worthy of her. Is that so? Ling Feng laughed and cupped his fists. I misspoke just now. I hope young Duke can forgive me. While Zhen Fang, Ling Feng, Tang Bin and the others were chatting happily, Chu Huang, Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Qin Yan and the others were listening from afar. Their voices were too loud, it was hard not to hear them. Feng Jixing wiped his windcutter blade and said with a faint smile, the Divine Marquis residence, the Protector General's residence and the Stabilizing General's residence have been fighting openly and secretly in the capital. It is rare for these people to be able to talk together. How hypocritical. As he spoke, Feng Jixing raised his head to look at Chu Huang and said, Do you really like Xinxiang? Chu Huang was stunned and said, Miss Xinxiang's talent and appearance have indeed moved my heart. Of course, I really like her. Why will General Feng object to us? But I also know that it will be difficult. Feng Jixing smiled. Life is short, and it's not easy to meet a woman who can move your heart. Since you like her, you should be courageous enough to pursue her. As your friend, I will naturally support you. However, the relationship between the Divine Marquis residence and the Royal Guards is very tense. I'm afraid this path will not be easy. Chu Huang's expression dimmed. I know. Feng Jixing smiled and said, What do you guys think about old Chu and Xinxiang? Qin Lei said, I don't understand matters between men and women. Qin Yan said, Elder brother doesn't understand, and I don't want to understand. Feng Jixing was speechless. You? What do you think? Lin Muyu laid on the cold stone steps and said slowly, just like what brother Feng Jixing said, if you like someone, you should courageously pursue them. Don't let yourself regret it. However, brother Chu Huang really needs to protect himself. Xing Yifan is ruthless. Who knows what he will do? Chu Huang nodded. Yes, I know what I am doing. At this time, the second round of matchups had already been decided. There were a total of 12 groups, and this time, it was considered a tit-for-tat. Several groups were actually strong opponents. Feng Jixing versus Tang Bin, Lin Muyu versus Lingfeng, Chu Huang versus Zhen Fang. As for Qin Lei and Qin Yan, they were quite lucky. The opponents they faced were not too strong, and some had not even stepped into the heavenly realm. After all, it was not easy to reach the heavenly realm. There were not many people who could step into the heavenly realm before the age of 35. Therefore, in the eyes of others, Lin Muyu, Chu Huang, and Feng Jixing were all rare geniuses. Lifting his sword, Feng Jixing patted the dust off his battle robe and smiled. I'm going. Be careful, Tang Bin's Firefox seal is very powerful. Chu Huang warned. Don't worry, he is not my opponent. Feng Jixing's confidence was bordering on arrogance, but no one doubted his arrogance. He was the youngest commander in the entire empire, and he was in charge of the capital's 30,000 imperial guards and close to 20,000 scattered troops. His own strength was unquestionable. On the other hand, Tang Bin had a calm expression. Standing on the tournament stage, he cupped his fists and smiled. Tang Bin has experienced Commander Feng Jixing's brilliant moves. I didn't expect that we would meet so early in this year's sword duel tournament. What a coincidence. Feng Jixing smiled slightly. Please show mercy, young Master Tang Bin. Don't let me lose too badly. You must be joking. Come on. All right. Feng Jixing held his sword horizontally, and with a wolf howl, the purple electric flame wolf climbed onto his shoulder. The thunder and lightning caused by his martial soul poured into the sword, and his battle robe immediately fluttered. In addition to his sharp eyebrows and starry eyes, many girls in the capital went crazy and screamed before he even made a move. Tang Bin still fought with his bare fists. He was proficient in the Firefox seal palm technique, so naturally, he would not be afraid of any sword or saber. Here it comes. Feng Jixing took the initiative to attack. With a swing of the wind cutter sword, the wind suddenly rose, and with the power of the law of wind, it was a swift desert gale. Tang Bin did not dare to underestimate it. He took half a step back and opened his left palm. Flames surged, and a seal appeared on his palm. He shouted, "Light seal!" The flames and the gale intersected and exploded. Feng Jixing and Tang Bin each took a few steps back. After stabilizing their breath, they rushed to attack again. Feng Jixing swept across the air and quickly gathered his battle chi. The battle chi turned into scorching hot sand that lingered around the sword, and a very fast attack once again blasted toward his opponent, hot sand scorching gold. Tang Bin's expression did not change. He waved his palms, and the Firefox seal appeared on his palm again. He raised both palms and launched the third Firefox seal, Scorching Flame Seal. The raging flames quickly engulfed the front, and Feng Jixing brandished his sword and rushed out of the flames. The hot sand scorching gold slashed heavily on the opponent's palm seal and quickly broke it. Feng Jixing ignored the flames on his cloak. His whole body was raging with lightning, and he suddenly slashed down from above. It was the fourth style of his self-created wind walking saber technique, Wild Thunder Saber. Tang Bin looked up at the sky, and the calmness on his face finally showed some fluctuations. He could feel how powerful and overbearing Feng Jixing's saber was. He opened his palm and directly skipped the 5th level of the Firefox seal, and directly used the 6th level, God Concentration seal. In an instant, the golden light shone brightly. Tang Bin raised his palm and blasted out like a divine oracle. Boom! The collision of energy in the air formed an impact, and it directly blew the group of nobles on the viewing platform until they let out sharp cries. In the end, under the palm of the God Concentration seal, a little blood flowed out from the corner of Feng Jixing's mouth. But his body was in the air, and he didn't land. He directly urged his battle energy, and the purple electric flame wolf howled. He raised the saber with both hands, and immediately, a fiend god star actually appeared behind him. His battle energy was so strong that it was a little scary. Oh my god! Qin Yan was flabbergasted. When did Feng Jixing cultivate to this level? Qin Lei squinted his eyes. This is the 8th style of his self-created wind walking saber technique, Devouring Demonic Saber. I've experienced this move before. It's really King powerful. It directly hit me until I vomited blood. In the arena, Tang Bin didn't feel good. Seeing that Feng Jixing's tyrannical saber was about to land, he could only brace himself and face it. Flames lingered in his palm, and he directly used his strongest move, 5 Chi Seal. Immediately, the 5 Chi of fate in the world crazily surged towards Tang Bin. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, they mutually reinforced and restrained each other. They grew and multiplied endlessly, and turned into a palm force that soared into the sky. Bam! In the air, flames and lightning interweaved together, and a violent wind almost engulfed the entire battling platform. In an instant, the flames were extinguished, and Feng Jixing floated down to the ground. Half of the white robe behind him was burned. He slapped out the flames, and his expression was very calm as he said indifferently, "Did I win?" Tang Bin vomited a mouthful of fresh blood, and the ground around him was filled with crisscrossed saber marks. He swayed on the spot, cupped his fists, and said with a trembling voice, "Commander Feng Jixing's cultivation is indeed extraordinary. Tang Bin loses wholeheartedly. Thank you for letting me win. I'll treat young Master Tang Bin to a drink later." Okay. Chapter 195. When Tang Bin walked off the stage, he could not hide the desolation on his face. His handsome body seemed to have become much more dispirited. The only person sent by the Seven Seas City's Tang sect was stopped outside the top 12. Perhaps only Tang Bin himself knew how much burden he had to shoulder. If he wanted to blame something, he could only blame the heavens for being unfair and placing him in the same group as Feng Jixing. Although Feng Jixing was slightly injured, his complexion was much better than Tang Bin's. He walked off the stage without a change in expression. Facing the congratulations of Chu Huaying, Lin Muyu, and the others, he said frankly, "If it wasn't for Yu's dream of the peak that helped me break through and step into the heavenly state stage 2, I'm afraid the outcome would have been hard to say. The power of the Firefox Seal stage 7 is truly amazing." Chu Huaying nodded and said, "Next, it's up to you." Ling Feng is the son of the State General Ling Nantian. His father, Ling Nantian, is an imperial general and also a heavenly emperor. Under his father's guidance, Ling Feng can be said to be like father like son. The Ling family swordsmanship has always been famous for its speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness. Furthermore, Ling Feng is good at hiding his strength and rarely fights, so you must be careful. Then got it. Lin Muyu slowly walked down the viewing platform with the dragon spirit sword in hand. In the distance, Ling Feng also stepped onto the stage with a faint smile on his face and a mysterious grade level 2 sword in hand. Although it was not as good as the dragon spirit sword, it was enough to compete. However, Lin Muyu's greatest chance of winning was that he was now at the second heavenly state, while Ling Feng was only at the first heavenly state. As long as his swordsmanship did not lose out too much, he would naturally be able to win. Ling Feng hugged the sword in his arms and did not bow. He smiled and said, "Lin Muyu, I heard that your imperial sword technique is amazing. It just so happens that my Ling family's inherited sword manual is famous for close combat. Today, close combat swordsmanship against swordsmanship? Interesting." Lin Muyu secretly frowned. This Ling Feng was indeed extremely arrogant. This kind of arrogance was even better than Zhen Fang's arrogance. It seemed that the State General had really spoiled this son. Ling Feng gently pushed the scabbard with his thumb, and the long sword in his hand was already unsheathed. He tossed the scabbard aside, and the long sword turned into 3 sharp sabers that slashed over. Lin Muyu also pushed the scabbard, pulled out the dragon spirit sword, and faced him head-on. Her wrist gently blocked 3 times, blocking all of Ling Feng's attacks. At the same time, she lifted her combat boots and kicked heavily. What? Ling Feng didn't expect Lin Muyu's close combat swordsmanship to be so good. He raised his foot to meet her attack. Pang! Lin Muyu retreated, but Ling Feng's Do Chi circled around his combat boots. Using a skillful force, he channeled the force into the ground. With a turn of his body, he launched an attack from the side. With a swing of his longsword, he launched 3 lightning-fast attacks. In the air, he shouted in a low voice, "Yin Yang triple layer." With a low roar, Ling Feng released his martial soul. It was the image of a giant flame beast that lingered around his shoulders. The power of his martial soul was infused into the blade of the sword, causing each of the 3 sword attacks to be very powerful. Lin Muyu had a deep understanding of how powerful it was, but the sudden attack also caught her off guard. She could only quickly summon the wall of the gourd. A golden light flashed, and the wall of the gourd surrounded her body, forcibly blocking the opponent's attack. Ping, ping, ping. 3 consecutive sword attacks actually directly split open the black tortoise shell. With 1 successful attack, she immediately unleashed her Do Chi and kicked the wall of the gourd. Pang! Lin Muyu took 3 steps back and her face was full of shock. She had actually suffered such a big loss in the first exchange of blows. This Ling Feng's family's martial arts were indeed impressive. No wonder Ling Nantian could become a high-ranking state general. Just as Chu Huaying said, this Ling Feng in front of her was definitely not here to give away points. He might even take away the qualification to advance to the top 8 from her hands. Hee. After a series of consecutive attacks, Ling Feng's aura was calm, and a faint milky white Do Chi lingered around his body. He smiled and said, "How is it? My Ling family's martial soul is a second-grade martial soul, Flaming Xieji. It is the soul of a legendary ancient beast. It is not something that a mere 10-grade gourd martial soul can compare to. Lady Lin Muyu, you are an expert from the Holy Temple and one of the Imperial Guards. You can also be called a pillar of the Empire. It is not shameful for you to admit defeat now, and you can also protect your reputation." He spoke extremely calmly, as if all of this was natural. Lin Muyu could not help but smile. She gently flipped her wrist, and the dragon spirit sword made a faint sword sound. She smiled and said, "Thank you for your kindness, young general. However, we have not yet decided the winner and the loser. It is shameful to admit defeat so early." "All right, then I will beat you until you kneel and beg for mercy." Ling Feng sneered. In the next moment he leaped forward again, and his dou qi turned into wind. The long sword flipped in the wind, and with a sudden whistling sound, the gale directly rushed forward, making it difficult to open one's eyes. However, the force of the blade seemed to be able to pierce through one's skin. This Ling Feng was really too sharp. It seemed that Ling Feng had been biding his time and had never sparred with Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying, and the others. It was probably because of the Gilded Dragon Talisman for this sword battle tournament. The Gilded Dragon Talisman was a dragon talisman that could command 10,000 troops of the Empire. It was indeed very valuable. Anyone would want to obtain this Gilded Dragon Talisman to increase their status and power in the army. Not to mention the wind, how could Lin Muyu lose to him? She opened one hand, and the dragon spirit sword left her hand. However, the power of the laws of wind in the surroundings instantly surged, turning into an even more tyrannical hurricane that rushed towards Ling Feng. Using the wind to control the sword, Lin Muyu spread her 5 fingers, and her dou qi exploded. Thousands of wind elemental forces turned into blades that pierced towards Ling Feng. Almost every wind blade was like a real sword, and it was impossible to defend against. Ling Feng was stunned, and he almost couldn't open his eyes. He hurriedly bent down and shouted, "Xieji Fire Shield!" Buzz! Ling Feng's martial soul roared, and his dou qi turned into a fiery red shield in front of him. It seemed that his flaming Xieji martial soul also had defensive skills. However, the number of skills was definitely not as many as Lin Muyu's. Bang bang bang! The wind blades bombarded the fiery red shield one after another, and the shield became thinner and thinner. Just as the energy of the wind to control the sword was depleted, Ling Feng opened his eyes and saw Lin Muyu rushing towards him. Her fists were covered in flames, and they landed on the Xieji fire shield. Bang! The fire shield was instantly shattered, and Ling Feng's qi and blood were in turmoil. He quickly retreated, but before he had time to catch his breath, Lin Muyu opened her palm from afar. She held a long sword that was spinning at high speed in her hand and rushed over. Using the fire to control the sword, Ling Feng was stunned. He did not even think about it and almost instinctively swept his long sword horizontally. Vigorous fighting aura actually turned into layers of qi armor that followed the blade of the sword. His ears rippled as he shouted, "Sweeping sword!" Lin Muyu was amazed. The Ling family swordsmanship was indeed impressive. They could actually turn an attack into a defense, but could this kind of defense really block the power of the Dragon Flame Spiral Break? Obviously not. Bang! The Dragon Spirit Sword went straight and instantly penetrated Ling Feng's sword sweep defense. Ling Feng was so shocked that his face turned pale. He hurriedly put the long sword in front of him to block. As a result, the high-speed spinning Dragon Spirit Sword pierced Ling Feng's long sword with a ding-ding-ding sound. In less than half a second, Ling Feng's long sword was directly shattered. This long sword could be considered to have protected its owner. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the sword that was broken, but Ling Feng's throat. However, the Dragon Spirit Sword's momentum did not stop. It still carried the spiral True Dragon Flame and slammed toward Ling Feng's throat. Just when Ling Feng was about to close his eyes and wait for death, there was suddenly a "pa" sound. The Dragon Spirit Sword's hilt was grabbed. Lin Muyu giggled and stopped the Dragon Spirit Sword's momentum. The blade was less than a centimeter away from Ling Feng's throat. She smiled and said, "Now, does this count as my victory?" Ling Feng was scared out of his wits. How would he dare to show off? After all, the participants of this sword battle meet had to sign a life or death agreement. Even if Lin Muyu took the opportunity to kill him, his father would not be able to pursue the matter. He could only nod and say, "Lady Lin Muyu's swordsmanship is extraordinary. I, Ling Feng, have already lost." What? Lin Muyu withdrew her long sword, cupped her fists, and said, "Thank you for letting me win." Ling Feng also retracted his arrogant attitude. He cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Lady Lin Muyu, for your guidance. Ling Feng has lost and you have won." When Ling Feng walked off the stage, a round of applause sounded from the viewing platform. It was from Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. Even Qin Jin was nodding his head with a look of approval on his face. Lin Muyu, the godson of the Celestial Emperor, did not disappoint him. Be it in terms of cultivation or character, she had far surpassed Ling Feng. Lin Muyu walked off the stage and quietly waited for the next match. After a few matches, it was time for the most crucial match. Chu Huayin versus Zhen Fang. This match was very complicated, and Chu Huayin was in a difficult position. After all, Zhen Fang was Zhen Xiang's younger brother. If he won, he would be letting Zhen Xiang down. The Divine Marquis residents had also made ample preparations for the sword battle meet. Zhen Fang was the wager of the Divine Marquis residents. If Zhen Fang lost, Zhen Yifan would not look good either. However, if Chu Huayin lost, it would be a disgrace to the royal guards and the royal family. Chu Huayin stood up majestically. His clear eyes looked towards the stage in the distance. That was his dream. Feng Jixing sat on the cold stone steps and smiled. Surnamed Chu, if you use the star-plucking finger, you have about a 50% chance of winning against Zhen Fang. If you don't use it, then you will definitely lose. I heard that Zhen Fang has also consumed Dream of the Extreme Peak and stepped into the second heavenly realm. He passed down all his skills to Xing Yifan. Just do as you see fit. Chu Huayin's expression was calm. I will strive to win. All right. On the viewing platform, Zheng Yifan squinted his eyes and said plainly, "Feng Er, your opponent is Chu Huayin. He is not an opponent to be underestimated." Chu Huayin's star-plucking finger was inherited from a hermit master. The power of his finger is so strong that it can even penetrate the armor of battle qi. Now that Chu Huayin has stepped into the second heavenly realm, if you can't defeat him with force, then use your wits. Yes, Lord Father. Zheng Fang held his long sword and smiled. Don't worry, I will definitely defeat this trash. I will also let sister know that trash cannot be the son-in-law of the Zheng family. Zhen Xiang frowned slightly. There was no expression on her pretty face. She only said plainly, "Brother, just be careful." Zheng Fang wanted to say something but stopped. He knew that Zhen Xiang's words were full of deep meaning. Chapter 196. The cold wind rustled his battle robe, and the ends of Chu Huayin's long hair fluttered in the wind. He carried his sword on his back, as if he didn't intend to fight with his sword. His right hand hung low, and fighting auras surrounded his fingertips. His body glowed with a faint purple light, and his martial soul, the sable, was about to appear. Zhen Fang held a long and thin sword, and his expression was fierce as he sneered, "Stop, Chu Huayin. Although you're a member of the royal guard, you should know that there's a huge difference in status between you and my sister. You're just a lowly noble, and you don't even have a title of nobility. How are you worthy of my sister? I advise you to rein in your horse before it's too late. You won't make a huge mistake." Chu Huayin's gaze was like water, and his voice was extremely calm as he said, "There's a difference in status between people, but there shouldn't be a difference in character. Young Duke, although Xinxiang comes from a rich and powerful family, Chu Huayin is confident that with my strength, I can let her live a good life. I'll protect her for the rest of her life and give her happiness." Zhen Fang said angrily, "You want to give my sister happiness? Why don't you look in the mirror? Chu Huayin, you lowly bastard. Since you're so stubborn, Don't blame me for being impolite. Today, only one of us can walk off the stage alive. Is that so? Chu Huayin smiled and said, Then, I'll have to ask you to teach me. Buzz. Zhen Fang thrust his sword forward, stepping on his martial soul, the glazed pagoda. The blade of his sword was surrounded by sharp sword aura, and it was obvious that he was an expert swordsman from the way he raised his sword. The sword aura instantly spread out, and it didn't look like a single attack. Instead, it looked like thousands of pear blossoms had bloomed in the air. Almost all of Chu Huayin's acupoints were within the range of the sword aura. The strength of Zhen Fang's strike was boosted by the glazed pagoda, so it naturally couldn't be underestimated. Not to mention that Zhen Fang had already stepped into the second level of the heavenly realm, so the ruthlessness of this strike was obvious. Just as Chu Huayin retreated to the edge of the martial arts arena, he suddenly leaped up and left Zhen Fang's attack range. His battle energy surged in midair, and the next moment he launched an attack from midair. His palms turned into fingers and instantly released thousands of star-picking fingers. It was as if thousands of stars were descending from the sky. The magnificence of his moves was indeed rare. Golden Bell Shield. Zhen Fang spun around and stood on the ground, but he still activated his martial soul skill. A golden barrier appeared around his body, and Chu Huaying's star-plucking finger caused golden ripples to appear on the golden barrier. Just as his body was about to fall, Zhen Fang rushed over with his sword in hand. A sword light flashed, and a ruthless sword shot into the sky. Battle energy gathered in his palms, and Chu Huaying's body suddenly spun in a spiral, perfectly dodging Zhen Fang's sword energy. He spun around and landed on the ground, shouting, "Golden snake coiling." His movement technique was extremely mysterious. Just as Feng Jixing had said, no one knew who Chu Huaying's master was. However, just based on his skills alone, it was enough for him to stand proudly on the mainland. In fact, Feng Jixing had once said that he would rather face Qin Lei than Chu Huaying's tricky and magnificent moves. This was enough to show how extraordinary Chu Huaying's cultivation was. However, just as Chu Huaying landed on the ground with the golden snake coiling, Zhen Fang suddenly launched another attack. His sword spun in the air, and countless sword energies raged towards Chu Huaying. Myriad Sword Technique. This was a technique that used sword energy to control one sword. It wasn't very rare, but Zhen Fang's move was as swift as a gust of wind and lightning. Furthermore, the timing was very exquisite. He launched his attack the moment Chu Huaying landed on the ground. At this moment, Chu Huaying needed half a second to recover his battle energy, which was also when he was at his weakest. A wisp of blood spurted out from Chu Huaying's shoulder. Following that, more and more blood spurted out. In the blink of an eye, his chest had already been pierced through by 4 to 5 holes. Although they weren't serious injuries, he looked very miserable. On the viewing platform, Jin Xiang suddenly stood up. Her pair of beautiful eyes were filled with shock and worry. "Lord Chu, Jin Xiang." Zhen Fang frowned and said, "Sit down. Don't forget that his opponent is your younger brother. You are a member of the Zhen Fang family, so you should have the pride of a Zhen Fang family member. How can you lose your composure for a mere imperial guard?" "Father." Jin Xiang slowly sat down, but her gaze didn't leave Chu Huaying. She bit her red lips, and a trace of pain appeared on her face. She said, "I only hope that father can fulfill our wish. Other than Chu Huaying, Jin Xiang will never fall in love with any other man." "Is that so?" Zhen Fang faintly smiled. He raised his head and leisurely said, "Love and hate, gather and disperse. In the endless flow of time, what does it count for? One day, you will understand this truth." Jin Xiang suddenly lowered her head and looked at the ground. She faintly smiled and said, "I would rather choose not to understand this truth." Zhen Fang angrily glared at his own daughter. However, he suddenly sighed and said, "Father has spoiled you since you were young. Whatever you want, I will give you. However, this is the only thing that I can't let you do as you please. If it was someone else, even if they were born in a poor family, I would have nothing to say. It's fine as long as you like them. But this Chu Huaying, He is Feng Jixing and Qin Yan's man. The grudge between him and the Divine Marquis Mansion is simply irreconcilable. Qin Lei can't wait to kill Father in anger. Do you really want to consign Father to eternal damnation? Jinxiang was speechless. She raised her head and looked at the arena again. Chu Huaying's handsome figure had already launched a counterattack. The battle chi in his body had turned into starlight and surrounded his body. His fingers were like butterflies flying in the air, shooting out beams of starlight. The star-plucking finger, as the name suggested, could pluck stars to injure people. These beams of starlight bombarded Jinfeng, making it almost impossible for him to get close. After fighting for a long time, Jinfeng had already fallen into a disadvantageous position. Perhaps Chu Huaying's injuries looked very miserable, but only Jinfeng himself knew how miserable his situation was. Many of the major acupoints in his body had been sealed by Chu Huaying's star-plucking finger. Even the strength to hold his sword seemed to be a little strained, let alone to use the imperial sword technique. Another swift and fierce, star-plucking finger directly pierced through Jinfeng's Holy Temple battle robe and battle armor. His Holy Temple deacon's golden insignia instantly shattered and rolled on the ground. Jinfeng didn't even look at the Holy Temple insignia. Instead, he forcibly gathered his true qi and leaped up to counterattack. His long sword was like a poisonous snake as it pierced towards Chu Huaying's danton. Was he trying to destroy Chu Huaying's energy sea? For a cultivator, there was probably nothing more important than the energy sea. Chu Huaying was slightly angered. His left hand suddenly turned into a palm, and a palm descended from the sky. He shouted, "Moon imprint palm." Boom! The force of the palm descended from the sky and directly landed on Jinfeng's back, blasting him to the ground along with his sword. His face even heavily collided with the hard stone floor, causing blood to flow, and it was a tragic sight to behold. "Let's stop here," Chu Huaying said lightly. "Young Duke, you have already lost. There is no need to struggle anymore. Just admit defeat." Jinfeng's face was full of dejection and regret. Tears swirled in his eyes. As the young Duke of the Divine Ho residence and one of the 12 deacons of the Holy Temple, he actually lost so miserably. Furthermore, he didn't lose to experts like Feng Jixing or Qin Lei. Instead, he lost to a nameless royal guard. How could he endure such humiliation? Chu Huaying. Jinfeng raised his head and looked at Chu Huaying. He said softly, "If you really want to marry my sister, then listen to me." Chu Huaying was slightly stunned. Jinxiang was his only weakness other than Chu Yao. Once he heard that he had a chance to be with the person he loved, he lost his ability to judge. He squatted down and asked, "Young Duke, do you have any ideas?" Of course, just as Chu Huaying was very close, Jinfeng suddenly reached out and grabbed Chu Huaying's collar. The long sword in his right hand pierced into Chu Huaying's dantian at lightning speed. Blood splattered, but it was only a superficial wound. After all, Chu Huaying's battle aura armor had not been broken. The long sword cut a long wound on his abdomen and blood flowed out. Chu Huaying was furious. He raised his hand and slammed it directly on Jinfeng's abdomen. It was also the location of his qi si. A powerful moon reflection palm landed. Boom! Blood splattered from Jinfeng's dantian as if it had exploded. At this moment, his qi si had been destroyed. "Chu Huaying, how dare you?" Zheng Yifan stood up abruptly. His figure flashed, and like a goshawk, he swooped towards the martial arts arena. He raised his palm and attacked from above. How could Chu Huaying withstand an attack that was filled with Saint Realm dark force? He even gave up on defending himself. He closed his eyes and said with a faint smile, "I, Chu Huaying, have a clear conscience." At this moment, another figure attacked like lightning. Flames soared into the sky and a huge fire cauldron blocked in front of Chu Huaying. It was Fire Cauldron Chu Chu. Boom! The flames exploded. Chu Chu and Jinfeng retreated a few steps after their palms collided. Jinfeng also fell from the sky and landed beside Jinfeng. "Marquis, Everyone in the sword battle tournament has to sign a life and death agreement. Young noble Marquis launched a sneak attack first. It's not Chu Huaying's fault. I hope Marquis will understand and not vent his anger on Chu Huaying. Chu cupped his fists and said respectfully, young noble Marcus Qi Si being destroyed is the will of the heavens. My condolences. You. Zhen Fang shouted angrily and glared at Chu. However, he did not flare up. He did not have the confidence to win against Chu. Zhen Fang turned around and hugged Zhen Fang. He checked his injuries and found that his Qi Si had completely leaked out. Zhen Fang's cultivation was also destroyed. The battle energy stored in his body had all returned to heaven and earth. Zhen Fang's eyes were closed and he fainted. He did not know anything. Zhen Fang trembled and roared, heaven and earth are unfair. Why are they treating me like this? Chapter 197. Brother Chu, shall we go down? Lin Mu walked up the stage and held onto Chu Huai's arm as she walked down the stage shakily. Chu Huai was in a daze. Although he won, it was a Pyrrhic victory. His physical injuries were nothing compared to his mental injuries. He had accidentally destroyed Zhen Fang's Qi Si. Since then, he had formed a deep hatred with the divine Marquis residents. His relationship with Jinxiang seemed even more impossible. Chu Huai didn't even dare to look in Jinxiang's direction. When they returned to the viewing platform, Lin Muyu comforted him, "It's not your fault, don't feel guilty." That's right, it was that Zhen Fang who launched a sneak attack first. How shameless! Qin Lei rubbed his palms together and said, "This is the Zhe Tian Palace. Who does Zhen Fang think he is? How dare he try to kill you?" Hold on. A despicable person like Zhen Fang should have his Qi Si destroyed and his dragon tendons broken. Let's see if he can still be so arrogant after that. Feng Jixing actually understood Chu Huai the best. He sighed and said, "Brother Chu, there's no need to despair. There's always a way out. Maybe there'll be a day when you'll see the light." "I hope so." Chu Huai's face was pale as he sat there dejectedly. At this moment, the Emperor Qinjin personally walked down the viewing platform and comforted him. "Zhenqing, don't be too sad. Chu Huai accidentally injured Zhen Fang. It's not his fault. I will order the people from the Spiritual Medicine Division to search for famous doctors and elixirs. They will definitely be able to heal Zhen Fang's Qi Si." Zhen Fang's expression was sorrowful. He cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for your mercy. I thank you on behalf of my son." Qin Jin nodded and said, "Come, confer Zhen Fang the title of Count Shen Wei and the title of Eastern Suppression General. He will officially become one of the 13 counts of the empire. This title will be passed down from generation to generation. Also, grant him a luxurious residence in the outskirts of Lanyan City and 200,000 Jinin coins." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Zhen Fang cupped his fists and bowed, but his eyes were filled with sorrow. He said, "Come, send the young duke to the Spiritual Medicine Division for treatment." A group of Shenwei Battalion soldiers immediately carried Zhen Fang to receive treatment. Zhen Fang bowed to the Emperor Qin Jin again and left hurriedly. Xing Yifan accompanied Zheng Fang on the horse carriage as it traveled along Tongtian Street. Xing Yifan's face was ashen. Beside him, the 1,000-man commander of the Divine Might Battalion, Sikong Nan, was galloping madly on his horse. He had a look of resentment on his face as he said, "Chu Huaiqiang took the opportunity to destroy the young noble's Sea of Qi. He did it on purpose." Damn it, the emperor bestowed the young noble with so many titles, mansions, and coins, but he didn't give the young noble any military power. "Marquis, how can the divine Marquis residents tolerate such humiliation? Then what do you want?" Zhen Yifan's eyes shone brightly as he said, "Speak." "Why don't we?" Sikong Nan cupped his fists and said, "Why don't we immediately gather the Divine Might Battalion and send a letter to the commanders of the Tian Shu Province, Songnan Province, and Earth Star Province, asking them to lead their troops and attack the imperial capital? The military strength of the commanders is almost 200,000, but the imperial capital only has 30,000 imperial guards. Even with the addition of the royal guards and the patrolling troops, there are no more than 50,000 people. We can definitely break the city in half a month. Then, Sikongnan became excited as he spoke, but when he met Zheng Yifan's cold gaze, he immediately trembled and said, "Marquis, did I say something wrong?" Zheng Yifan said angrily, "Sikongnan, remember this. I, Zheng Yifan, was conferred the title of Divine Marquis by the current emperor, Qin Jin. I, Zheng Yifan, will forever be the Divine Marquis of the Qin Empire. Whoever wants to replace His Majesty will have to step over my dead body. From now on, if I hear you say such disgraceful words again, don't blame me for escorting you into the imperial city and handing you over to Xiang Yu of the military police battalion." Sikongnan shuddered and said, "I won't dare to do it again." Zheng Yifan lowered his head and looked at Zheng Fang, who was frowning, then looked up at the sky thoughtfully. He sighed, as if he had aged a lot in just a short while. On the viewing platform, the sword duel competition continued until noon. Finally, the final 12 winners were decided, and the final champion would be decided among these 12 people. The next competition would be held in the afternoon, and the emperor would personally entertain the 12 winners at Zetian Palace. At noon, a golden cauldron was set up, filled with exquisite food. Many of the food was presented by the other 11 provinces as tributes, such as fresh fruits from Lingnan, bear paws from Lingdong Province, wild cloud deer meat from Tongtian Province, swans from Yunzhong Province, and 7-core begonia from Qihai City. When the musicians rang the chimes, they also announced the start of the banquet. There were groups of palace maids, and the courtiers were respectfully kneeling at the side, waiting for their orders. Even the pouring of wine was done by someone else. Lin Muyu sat in the middle of Feng Jixing and Chu Huayin, very quiet. He was not very used to this kind of occasion, because the scene in front of him was proof of a saying, "The bell rings and the cauldron eats." The life of the emperor's family was really too luxurious. Even if Lin Muyu was not the kind of guardian who helped the world, he still felt a little guilty eating these things. "Come." Qin Jin raised his silver cup and said with a smile, "My subjects, please drink this cup of wine. I wish that my subjects will be able to obtain a good ranking in the sword duel competition in the afternoon." Come. The emperor downed his cup in one gulp. Lin Muyu and the others did not dare to be negligent, and they all drank their cups one by one. "Xiaoyin?" Qin Jin looked at his precious daughter and signaled with his eyes. Qin Yin immediately stood up and raised her cup of wine. She smiled and said, "Xiaoyin once again offers a toast to all of you. I wish that you all will obtain a good result." She was the future successor of the empire, and the 12 people present were all outstanding talents that the empire would have to rely on in the future. This was also the biggest reason why Qin Jin asked his daughter to offer a toast. In reality, Qin Jin was using this opportunity to groom his daughter into an important courtier in the future, and he had put in a lot of effort. After that, Qin Yin offered a toast to everyone. Everyone was overwhelmed by the favor, but when Qin Yin came in front of Lin Muyu, she smiled mischievously and said, "Brother Yu, don't drink so much." Lin Muyu looked at her flushed face in annoyance and said, "You're the one who should drink less. Look at you, you're already a little drunk." Qin Yin giggled, and her bright red face was like the sunset glow. She was indescribably beautiful. She smiled and said, "I'm fine, but you can't get drunk. Otherwise, you'll lose the sword duel tournament in the afternoon." "Don't worry, I'll give it my all." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "Yeah, Xiaoyin wishes that Brother Yu takes first place in advance." Qin Yin refilled her cup again and said with a smile, "Come, Brother Yu, why don't you accompany Xiaoyin for another drink?" Yeah. Lin Muyu drank another cup. This action, however, caused Yuan Lian and the other disciples of the aristocratic families to be resentful and unhappy. Qin Yin offered a toast to everyone, but she only drank one more cup with Lin Muyu. She even sat on the ground and chatted happily with him. This kind of affection made them extremely jealous, but they had nothing to say. After all, everyone knew that Lin Muyu was the emperor's godson. It was only natural for him to be so intimate with Qin Yin. In the afternoon, Qin Yin was already tipsy. Her little face was flushed as she sat on the viewing platform. She looked at the practice platform from afar and waited for the next round of sparring. There were only 12 people left. It could be said that all of them were fierce tigers. However, the grouping was a little strange. The 12 people were actually divided into 2 groups of 16 to determine the top 8. However, this also meant that 4 people would have no fights. Very quickly, the grouping was decided. Lin Muyu, Chu Huayin, and Feng Jixing were all lucky to have no fights. Feng Jixing was so happy that he didn't have to fight and directly advanced to the top 8. Lin Muyu was also very happy. It was best that they didn't have to fight. They could conserve their strength. The consumption of battle qi in the morning was already very serious. Their next opponents were all experts, so they had to give it their all. The 4 matches ended very quickly. The 2 brothers, Qin Lei and Qin Yan, won smoothly. In addition, Yuan Lian, Lin Changqing, and Murong Zhou also advanced to the top 8. At this point, there were only 8 names left on the gilded wooden board of the sword contest tournament. They were Feng Jixing, Chu Huayin, Qin Lei, Qin Yan, Lin Muyu, Yuan Lian, Lin Changqing, and Murong Zhou. Lin Changqing and Murong Zhou were all generals of the empire's provinces. They had fought hard in the army when they were young. After so many years, their cultivation had improved, so they also qualified to participate in the sword contest tournament. Very quickly, the eunuch quickly listed the matchups of the top 8, Feng Jixing versus Lin Changqing, Yuan Lian versus Qin Lei, Lin Muyu versus Qin Yan, Murong Zhou versus Chu Huayin. I actually met Big Brother Lin Muyu. Qin Yan revealed a dispirited expression and said, "How can I be his match? Sigh, I thought that I could meet Lin Changqing or Yuan Lian. At least I could get into the top 4. Qin Lei smiled and said, Yan, it's already not easy for you to enter the top 8. After all, you are only 18 years old. Everyone here is older than you. Think about it, if you were to cultivate for another 7 to 8 years, who among us would still be your match?" Qin Yan, on the other hand, was delighted. Big Brother is right. This kid really didn't know how to be humble at all. The first match, Feng Jixing versus Lin Changqing. Both of them were experts who used the saber. Furthermore, they were also commanders of a region. They had struggled in the army for many years and refined a set of saber arts for killing. It was just that Feng Jixing's saber arts were more skilled and overbearing. Furthermore, his own cultivation also surpassed Lin Changqing's. Hence, after several dozen rounds, Lin Changqing abandoned his saber and admitted defeat. The second match, Yuan Lian versus Qin Lei. The son of the country protecting General Yuan Xie faced off against the eldest son of Prince Yuning. But the disparity in strength between the two was too great. In less than 10 rounds, Yuan Lian sustained injuries and was defeated. The might of Qin Lei's 7-layered god-binding shackles was too tyrannical. Yuan Lian practically adopted defensive tactics from the start of the battle, but he continued to defend until the end of his defeat. The third match, Lin Muyu versus Qin Yan. Even though they were opponents, the relationship between the two was pretty good. Lin Muyu wielded the dragon spirit sword, while Qin Yan wielded the fire serpent spear. The two of them stepped onto the high platform side by side, immediately causing a wave of cheers. Due to Lin Muyu's identity as the emperor's adopted son, he seemed to have already nurtured quite a number of female fans. On the viewing platform, there were at least a dozen or so noble girls waving their delicate arms and shouting, "Lord Lin Muyu, do your best." Pa. Tang Xiaoxi's teacup landed heavily on the table. Her face was unhappy, and her beautiful eyes carried disdain as she said, "Humph, so what if these girls know Mu? To actually cheer for Mu like this? So infuriating," Qin Yin giggled. "Xiao Shi is so petty, Tang Xiaoxi pouted her small mouth, but was unwilling to admit that she was petty. Her twin peaks rose and fell angrily as she said, "Xiao Yin is also bullying me. Don't tell me you're happy that those girls are cheering for Mu." Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were like water. She shook her head and said with a smile, "No, I'll be very happy if they cheer for Big Brother Yu." But after I ascend the throne, I'll cut the salary of their fathers by 30%. Tang Xiaoxi's face was full of respect. As expected of Xiao Yin. Chapter 198. Clang. Under the violent collision of the dragon spirit sword, Qin Yan almost couldn't hold on to the fire serpent spear. However, he was also considered to have outstanding talent and actually rolled out smoothly. The fire serpent spear transformed into a fire serpent that swallowed towards Lin Muyu's legs. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. He quickly turned and retreated a few steps, stabbing the long sword into the ground with one hand. With a loud shout, he summoned the wall of the bottle gourd. The black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall rose from the ground, directly dispersing Qin Yan's attack. Stepping forward, Lin Muyu quickly slashed out 3 times, causing Qin Yan to continuously retreat. The dragon scale armor on his body also rapidly dissipated. After fighting for over 30 rounds, the speed at which Qin Yan's battle chi increased was already far inferior to Lin Muyu's. Hence, he didn't delay any longer and straightforwardly stabbed the fire serpent spear into the ground. He cupped his fists and said, "Big brother Lin Muyu, I admit defeat. You haven't even used that mysterious power and can already defeat a Yen. Thanks for letting me win, a Yen." Lin Muyu also cupped his fists and smiled. The mysterious power that Qin Yan spoke of was actually the 7 planets' profound energy. Many people knew that Lin Muyu possessed a mysterious martial art, but no one knew what it was called. Hence, it caused him to become increasingly mysterious. Advanced to the semi-finals. Carrying the dragon spirit sword, Qin Yan walked down the stage shoulder to shoulder with Qin Yan. Looking at his fire serpent spear, it was already filled with densely packed tiny cuts. He couldn't help but say with heartache, "What sword did big brother Lin Muyu use? It's so domineering, it actually chipped my fire serpent spear." This fire serpent spear is a profound grade 2 treasure. Royal father specially found this weapon for me from the western regions. No problem, just find a blacksmith to repair it. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and consoled. All right. Qin Yan was still somewhat desolate. After all, he was a competitive young man. Especially in such a grand competition like the Sword Duel Assembly, it was truly a pity to lose. At this moment, Chu Huaimian stood up. His body swayed slightly and he frowned, looking slightly uncomfortable. "Old Chu, can you still fight?" Feng Jixing said worriedly, "Your injuries are a little heavy." "It's already bandaged." Chu Huaiying gritted his teeth and said, "It's all right. I've prepared for so long for the Sword Duel Conference. I must go up and defeat Murong Zhou. I'll make him laugh at my Imperial Guard for having no one else." All right then. Murong Zhou, 34 years old this year, was the captaincy of the border garrison of Heaven's Pivot Province and the general of the North. He was well versed in spear techniques and was known as the spear god of Heaven's Pivot Province. It was said that he was invincible when it came to riding on horseback. He once defeated 7 northern desert generals in a row, forging a lifetime of glory for him. It seemed that because of these experiences, Murong Zhou became arrogant. He even declared that he would challenge the Imperial Guards in the capital city one by one to see if there was anyone in the capital city who could be his match. Furthermore, Murong Zhou was very talented. Before he was 40, he had already reached Heaven Realm's 2nd heaven. He had reached Heaven Realm's 2nd heaven half a year earlier than Chu Huayin. Chu Huayin stepped onto the martial arts arena step by step. His footsteps were slightly serious. He was indeed heavily injured, but he couldn't lose his dignity as the commander of the Dragon Guards. He held onto his long sword and stood majestically in the wind. He looked like an inviolable divine statue. Murong Zhou held an iron spear in his hand. He raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Chu Huayin, you have proven that you are a very strong person by fighting Xan Fong. However, Murong Zhou, am not willing to bully someone who is injured. I think you should just admit defeat. It's not embarrassing to lose to me, Murong Zhou. Otherwise, after you're injured, your skills will be greatly reduced. Do you think you can defeat me?" Chu Huayin's smile was very bright. The premise of an unfair victory is to be able to win. Do you think you can defeat me? I heard that you really want to challenge the two commanders, Qin Lei and Feng Jixing. It just so happens that I have a nickname in the Imperial Guard called Touchstone. If you want to challenge the two commanders, then you have to defeat me first. Otherwise, you don't have the right to challenge them. Is that so? In that case, I'll accept your invitation. Just as he finished speaking, Murong Zhou's iron spear suddenly stabbed towards him. Chu Huayin hurriedly raised his long sword to block it. However, Murong Zhou's spear had a soft force. The tip of the spear tilted slightly, causing a flower of blood to bloom on Chu Huayin's shoulder. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The power of the collision caused Chu Huayin to retreat several steps. He quickly abandoned his long sword and turned his palms into fingers. Rays of starlight surrounded him. Just as Murong Zhou approached him with his iron spear, Chu Huayin raised his hand and pointed. His battle energy turned into starlight and shot towards Murong Zhou's forehead. Ha! Murong Zhou was stunned for a moment, and the qi armor between his eyebrows had already been shattered. He hurriedly flipped over and fell to the ground to avoid the second and third attacks. Chu Huaying's star-plucking finger left deep holes on the stone floor. It was evident that Chu Huaying's battle energy was very strong. You've gone too far. Murong Zhou rolled and crawled in a sorry state. Finally, he found an opportunity to jump up and sweep his spear towards Chu Huayin's calf. However, Murong Zhou didn't expect Chu Huayin to be so desperate. He forcefully condensed his battle energy and rooted his calf's center of gravity on the ground. With a bang, he was hit by the spearhead, causing blood to flow out. However, Chu Huayin used the opportunity to injure his calf, and his fingers moved like butterflies. Countless starlight condensed from battle energy fell down and directly destroyed Murong Zhou's battle energy armor. In the blink of an eye, Murong Zhou was already covered in injuries. Fortunately, Chu Huayin only used 30% of his strength. Otherwise, this round of star-plucking finger would have been enough to kill Murong Zhou on the spot. Murong Zhou, who was covered in blood, slowly stood up. Just as he was about to attack with his iron spear, he saw Chu Huayin's palm facing him. Chu Huayin didn't move an inch. A bright moon appeared in the air. The moon-print palm could take his life at any moment. I admit defeat. Murong Zhou was dejected. If he didn't admit defeat, he would have to pay with his life. Chu Huayin was already determined to get into the top 4. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing hurried forward and helped the injured Chu Huayin off the stage. Chu Huayin felt a wave of nausea and dizziness. When he looked into the distance, he realized that Zhenxiang's seat was already empty. He couldn't help but feel lonely. Old Chu, you idiot. Do you want to die? Feng Jixing said in a low voice. Chu Huayin smiled and said, His Majesty promised that the top 4 of the sword duel tournament would receive the title of a second-class noble. Our Chu clan is a commoner. I must change the situation so that Yao won't be looked down upon by anyone in the future. Idiot. Feng Jixing said indifferently. Lin Muyu supported Chu Huayin's shoulder and said, Quickly apply the medicine. Otherwise your leg might be crippled. Murong Zhou didn't hold back at all. Okay. Immediately she sat at the side of the stage and took off Chu Huayin's combat boots. His leg was already bruised and bloody. Lin Muyu hurriedly took out some medicine and personally applied it on Chu Huayin. At this point, the top 4 of the sword duel tournament had already been decided. They were Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Qin Lei, and Chu Huayin. They were also the 4 brothers who were the closest to each other. Soon, the eunuch announced the final lineup: Lin Muyu versus Qin Lei, Feng Jixing versus Chu Huayin. Finally, the 4 brothers were going to fight it out. Chu Huayin lay on the cold stone steps and looked at the sky. He smiled and said, This year's sword duel tournament is really brilliant. It's probably the most tragic one in the history of the sword duel tournament. Qin Lei said, It's also the most powerful one. The top 4 are all at level 2 of the Heaven Realm. Such a lineup, the Empire hasn't seen such a thing in hundreds of years. Otherwise, His Majesty wouldn't be so happy. Chu Huayin tilted his head and looked at Feng Jixing. He said, Brother Feng, you got lucky this time. I'm all in the final battle, and I really don't have the strength to fight anymore. Feng Jixing said happily, doesn't this mean that I, Feng, have directly advanced to the competition for first place? I'll definitely treat you to a drink later. I'll drink the best wine in Lanyan City. Thanks. Then, the top 4 competition became the battle between Qin Lei and Lin Muyu. Qin Lei propped the thunder cutter blade on the ground and said with a smile, it's our turn. Should we go all out or hold back? Lin Muyu smiled and said, don't go all out, we can talk about it. All right then. Qin Lei was also a straightforward person. He patted Lin Muyu's shoulder and said with a smile, as the big brother, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry, once the victor is decided, I'll stop. The two of them went up the stage together. Qin Lei slowly swung his long blade and said with a smile, why don't we decide the victor in one move? How about it? We'll use our strongest move. Whoever wins and who loses will be decided in an instant. This will save us from fighting for too long and exhausting too much battle chi, and giving Feng Jixing, this old fellow, an advantage. I don't want to see him take the Lulong talisman without even fighting a battle. This way, the Imperial Guards will have too much of an advantage. All right. Lin Muyu nodded and said with a smile, then let's decide the victor in one move. All right. The people below the stage could not hear what the people on the stage were saying, but they could see that Lin Muyu and Qin Yan's expressions suddenly became solemn. Furthermore, the battle chi on the two's body rapidly rose, giving people a feeling of almost suffocation. Put. Qin Lei raised the lightning split saber horizontally. Bolts of lightning descended from the sky, encircling his surroundings. The lightning split saber even trembled slightly. At the same time, 6 golden god binding chains encircled his body. Vigorous battle chi continuously spread in all directions, forming an extremely powerful storm that was currently attacking in all directions. Even furious lightning descended from the sky, causing the sky to dim. In an instant, it was as if day had turned into night. Only the flickering light of lightning continuously illuminated the people near the viewing platform. My God! Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful face lost all color as she said, is Big Brother Qin Lei going to risk his life? He wouldn't be thinking of killing you, right? Qin Yin's pair of elegant eyes also revealed worry. I believe that Big Brother Qin Lei will know what to do. Everyone on the viewing platform was already dumbstruck. The starting stance of Qin Lei's move was really too shocking. It was as if he wanted to borrow the might of the heavens to defeat Lin Muyu. On the contrary, Lin Muyu was extremely calm. The golden gourd in her hand slowly rotated, and in the blink of an eye, it became bigger, enveloping her entire body. The dragon spirit sword was unsheathed, and with a shout, a golden light soared into the sky, directly piercing through the dark clouds that Qin Lei had condensed. A ray of heavenly light landed on Lin Muyu's body. The long sword left her hand, and the dragon spirit sword rapidly rotated, bringing with it streams of true dragon essence fire. Not only that, Lin Muyu even opened her left hand. Streams of blood-colored demonic energy danced wildly in her palm, quickly seeping into the blade. This strike carried the profound energy of the 2 glorious demonic dance. Lin Muyu didn't dare to use the 4th glorious dance, because there was no need. If the 2nd glorious dance couldn't defeat Qin Lei, then it could only mean that she wasn't fated to obtain the Gilded Dragon Talisman. And compared to the Gilded Dragon Talisman, Qin Lei's life was obviously more important. Chapter 199. Compared to Qin Lei's lightning that wreaked havoc, Lin Muyu's aura was clearly much gentler. The golden gourd represented the power of life, giving people a sense of peace. However, the demonic power that spread on the blade allowed people to feel the hidden tyranny and forcefulness of Lin Muyu's attack. The two of them were risking their lives right from the start. This made people look forward to the final result even more. On the viewing platform, the noble ladies were sipping tea as they discussed spiritedly, "Wow, Sir Qin Lei is indeed worthy of being the commander of the imperial army." This kind of aura is too frightening. I'm afraid that Sir Lin Muyu is going to lose. No, Sir Lin Muyu will not lose. Why? Because Sir Lin Muyu looks much better than Sir Qin Lei. Pfft, shameless. Stupid girl, haven't you been staring at Sir Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, and Feng Jixing? I haven't. Then why did you see Sir Lin Muyu's appearance just now? Her breathing was hurried, her face was flushed, and she kept pulling at her clothes at the front of her chest? I'm going to kill you to silence you, stupid girl. On the practice platform, the hard stone slabs were actually peeling off and rising due to the collision of power. It was as if they were going against the law of gravity. Bits of stone and dust were constantly flying up due to the collision of power between Lin Muyu and Qin Lei. However, it was in line with the physical phenomenon of the airflow rotating due to thermal expansion and contraction. Lightning constantly flickered, and the thunder split blade was burned red by the lightning. It had already reached its peak state. Qin Lei's eyes were burning with battle intent. He laughed loudly and said, "You, try the 6th attack of Big Brother's Thunder Split Blade technique." As he spoke, Qin Lei shouted, "Raging thunder rips the heavens." Buzz. The thunder cutter blades seemed to have already transformed into countless streaks of lightning. The one in front of them was definitely not a single thunder cutter blade. Qin Lei's overwhelming attack had actually blasted out tens of thousands of thunder cutter blades. A cold glint flashed across Lin Muyu's eyes. She abruptly clasped her palms together and gathered all the fighting energy in her body. The dragon serpent sword soul let out an angry roar and circled around the blade of the dragon soul sword. The dragon serpent sword soul charged towards the thunder splitter sword with a high-speed spiral of flames. Boom! The two divine weapons collided together, and the sounds of energy explosions rang out incessantly. The dragon spirit sword spun and charged forward, directly shattering the energy of the first lightning split blade. Following that, the second, the third, and so on, it kept on charging forward. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu spread out his arms from afar, with flames lingering around his palms. He controlled the dragon spirit sword to charge forward from a distance. The strong wind blew his cloak, causing it to flutter. He narrowed his eyes, not giving in the slightest to Qin Lei's attack. Awesome! Qin Lei roared as he continued to urge his fighting energy. The sky-rending raging lightning crazily surged. Lin Muyu could not retreat, or else his body would be torn into pieces in an instant. He did not believe that Qin Lei, this battle maniac, had the ability to hold back at the crucial moment. Therefore, he could only win this battle and not lose. The 7 luminaries' profound energy was circulating crazily. When the dragon spirit sword smashed close to 100 thunder splitter sword's sharp beams, its power actually showed some signs of being exhausted. However, Qin Lei's sky-rending raging lightning was still wreaking havoc. The arrow was already on the bowstring and had no choice but to be released. Again, with a light spread of his palms, the 3rd luminary's profound energy crazily surged out of his body. One after another, the celestial bodies of living beings condensed on the martial arts practice stage. Under Lin Muyu's summon, they all attached themselves to the dragon spirit sword from afar. Immediately, the golden light exploded. The dragon spirit sword received the addition of new energy as it rapidly charged towards Qin Lei, directly shattering the energy of dozens of thunder splitter sword. Lin Muyu exerted all of his strength to control the dragon spirit sword through the air. His complexion became rather pale as he secretly prayed, "Big brother Qin Lei, hurry up and lose. Don't force me to use the 4th luminaries. The 4th luminaries are too strong. If I use it, even I would be afraid." Finally, Qin Lei, who was on the martial arts practice stage, suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood with a pft sound. He could not hold on any longer. The 6 god-binding chains on the surface of his body began to scatter one after another, and the radiance of the thunder splitter sword also gradually dimmed. Buzz buzz. The dragon spirit sword charged straight towards Qin Lei's chest without stopping. Just as it was about to pierce through, Lin Muyu suddenly retracted his hand. Immediately, as if it had a mind of its own, the long sword made a somersault in the air and stabbed onto the stone slab in front of Lin Muyu. Gee, Qin Lei gasped for breath. While wiping the fresh blood from the corner of his mouth, he raised his head to look at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, "Satisfying, satisfying. You, just where did this strange strength come from? The sixth strike of my Thunder Splitter sword technique is extremely tyrannical. I'm confident that even Feng Jixing might not be able to dissolve it unscathed. You, brat, actually forcefully broke through this move of mine. You're really not simple." Lin Muyu's complexion was also pale as she slowly held onto the sword hilt. Her body swayed as she said with a smile, "I've already used all of my strength. If I couldn't receive this move, I'm afraid that I would have been hacked to death by Big Brother Qin Lei." Qin Lei laughed loudly. "I've lost. You go fight for first place with Feng Jixing. Many thanks to Big Brother Qin Lei for letting me win. Pa, I didn't go easy on you. Do you think that I don't want the dragon talisman?" Qin Lei wiped the corner of his mouth again and said with a smile, "My imperial army only has 7,000 people. If I had the dragon talisman, I would mobilize troops from Cangnan province and expand the imperial army to 17,000 people." Lin Muyu walked forward and held onto Qin Lei's arm. She said with a smile, 7,000 people is already enough. Any more would just be eating rations for free." "That's true." At this time, a eunuch walked onto the uneven martial arts practice stage and said loudly, "Lin Muyu wins. Lord Qin Lei and Lord Chu Huaying are tied for third and fourth place in this sword duel assembly. Next, Lord Feng Jixing and Lord Lin Muyu will fight for first place in this sword duel assembly." Thunderous applause sounded. Everyone was finally going to see a pinnacle showdown. Feng Jixing, the man who was known as the Tiger of Tong Tian Street, and Lin Muyu, the peerless genius of the divine temple that was rarely seen in 100 years. One was the commander of the imperial army and had guarded the imperial capital for almost 7 years. The other had saved Her Highness Qin Yin's life twice with wisdom and bravery. Moreover, he had cultivated a 10th grade green gourd martial spirit to such a level that it could actually surpass the 1st grade god-binding shackles. How powerful was this? The showdown between these two people was most likely what everyone expected. At this time, Qin Yin suddenly stood up and said respectfully, "Imperial Father, Big Brother Yu has been fighting hard and has consumed a lot of his battle chi and stamina. On the other hand, General Feng has been resting for so long. If we were to fight now, it would be a little unfair to Big Brother Yu. I suggest that we give Big Brother Yu some time to rest. After 2 hours, we will let General Feng and Big Brother Yu have a showdown." Qin Jin happily nodded his head and smiled. "Xiao Yin is right. I approve it. The showdown between the two of them will be held 2 hours later." "Thank you, Imperial Father." From afar, Lin Muyu also cast a grateful look at Qin Yin. As for Qin Jin, when he saw that Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, and Qin Lei were in the top 4, he heaved a sigh of relief. No matter which family the dragon talisman ended up in, these 4 people were all on his side. Lin Chongqing and Murong Zhou might not be loyal to him. Lin Muyu calmly sat on the stone steps and continuously circulated the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll to calm the surging battle chi in her body. She had consumed a lot of energy in the head-on fight with Qin Lei. If she were to fight now, she might not be a match for Feng Jixing at his peak. After all, Feng Jixing's self-created wind blade technique was extremely domineering. Even at her peak, she might not be able to deal with it, let alone in a situation where she had consumed a lot of battle chi. Feng Jixing hugged his windcutter blade and sat beside Lin Muyu with a smile. He said, If you admit defeat, Big Brother Feng will treat you to a month's worth of beef and flour buns. How about it, dude?" Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. "Don't give me that. I won't fall for it." Feng Jixing smiled and said, What do you think of Her Highness Yin's appearance? Is she #1 in the world?" This, Lin Muyu's heart wavered slightly, but she knew that it was Feng Jixing's trick. She calmed her heart and said, Her Highness' appearance is still okay. Still not falling for it?" Feng Jixing grinned and said, If you were to choose, who would you marry? Her Highness Qin Yin, Princess Shi, and the beauty Chu Yao, who would you choose?" Lin Muyu glanced at him and said, "Don't give me that, I won't choose any of them." "Really? That's a pity." Feng Jixing whistled and lay down on the stone steps beside Lin Muyu. He didn't look like a commander of the imperial army at all. Instead, he looked more like a hoodlum. He lowered his voice and laughed. "I think you should marry both Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. One will be the elder, and the other will be the younger. What do you think?" Lin Muyu finally laughed and stopped circulating her energy. She said, "Big brother Feng, you're so scheming. Ahem, is the first place of this sword duel tournament really that important to you?" "Of course it's important." Feng Jixing revealed his true colors. "The first place will receive a reward of 100,000 Jin Yin coins. The second place will only receive 30,000 Jin Yin coins. It's not even enough to buy a big house in the capital." Chu Huayin, who was cultivating to heal his injuries, opened his eyes and asked, "What do you want a big house for? How can I marry without a big house?" Feng Jixing's eyes widened. "You don't have a wife." Chu Huayin laughed. Feng Jixing pulled out his wind cutter and raised his eyebrows. "Chu Huayin, don't say anything else. Fight me one-on-one if you're a man." Chu Huayin grinned and continued to cultivate to heal his injuries. He said, "You don't fall for his trick. 3 years ago, in order to get first place in the sword competition, this guy actually invited me to drink wine the day before. He said he wanted to drink rice wine, but in the end, it was all strong alcohol. He even found a few girls from Spring Fragrance brothel to drink with him. I was defeated by him after I was drunk." How disgraceful." Lin Muyu held back her laughter. "Since that's the case, I definitely can't lose to brother Feng. I also want a big house and a wife." Feng Jixing held back his laughter. "It's really unfortunate to know you guys." Chu Huayin pouted. "If those girls in the capital knew that you, Feng Jixing, are like this, I'd like to see if they would still be interested in you." Lin Muyu secretly laughed but didn't say anything. 2 hours passed quickly. It was time for the competition. Lin Muyu silently circulated her battle energy and found that it had recovered to 90%. She could almost fight with Feng Jixing now. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.